Alrighty, folks, we are live. It is your friend, your pal, your buddy, Mike from PA. We are here. It is February 3rd, 2026. I can't believe it's February 3rd already. I got to get my shit together. I got to get my fucking shit together. Can't believe it's February 3rd already. Oh, sorry about that, chat. Started the stream a little late. Dude, my daughter is due in May and it's going so quick. Well, good luck. Hope you're ready. Hope you're ready. Gotta get your shit together. No more fucking around. It's not just you two anymore. You have other people that you're actually responsible for. So can 2 fuck-ups and the 1 child? Gonna be a question. Mike, is Kat a candidate worth dedicating my time to? It's way too early for me to figure that out right now. Give me a minute. I have to think through all the implications of me answering that question. I had to think about politics. How do you put this? The thing about politics is that you have to be political, which is something that sounds obvious. You don't really understand what I mean, right? In my life, I've always tried to be extremely honest. Okay, I've always tried to be straightforward and, you know, not sugarcoat things. You know, give people the straight medicine. Don't waste their time with bullshit. Don't sugarcoat. Don't worry about offending people. As long as you stick to the truth, you're honest, and you have goodwill, it'll work out. My general feeling is that you know, it's hard for me to speak out against somebody who's under federal indictment. And, you know, when that happened, I'm pretty much saying, you know what? It is what it is. It'd be better if she won rather than her not winning. I have to say, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't been super impressed with the campaign. I think the campaign has not been run well, and that's concerning. And like from the time that her campaign manager was boosting the like anti-Semitic allegations against Zohran Mamdani to you know, her choice of district to run in the first place, plus the like sleeping through a you know, town hall that you're supposed to be at, just like not really engaging with like, hey, are you a socialist, you know, saying no for a long time and then saying, yeah, I'm a member of DSA now. And it's just like not really going that hard against Israel, surprisingly. Like, you know, you would think they would be even harder against Israel, but it's kind of like a little bit underwhelming. So it was just a lot of things where I'm like, there's some campaign problems here and I'm concerned. And I'm not in the district, and I'm wondering if she's, you know, it's not that she's a double agent or anything. It's just like, people ask my opinion, I'm giving you my opinion. It's like, you know, I don't know how she's perceived in the district. Maybe if she's catching fire, if she really is doing well, I don't want to put any soil on that, right? Like, I want her to do well. How do you feel about Philly DSA endorsing Chris Robb? I mean, that sounds like he's a, you know, that sounds good to me. You know, sounds good to me. If you're getting endorsed by your local DSA and you're running for Congress, sounds pretty good to me. You know, I mean, so I'm very interested in helping Chris based off of that alone. Now I need to find out more, but the Illinois 9 election that Kat is running for is way too tough for her flailing, but I hope she can make it at least get her foot in the political door. For Illinois 08, however, vote for Ahmed. Yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing. Mike, you see the new Eamon animation? Actually, chat, have you seen the new Eamon animation? Have you seen the new Eamon animation? Oh, what's this?
I bet Al's already started drinking because Daddy's about to land and Daddy has needs.
All we want from Denmark is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built. We're building a golden dome, that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that.
I want to really...
But in doing it, I'm helping Europe, I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, last time. Very smart man said, he's our daddy. Daddy has needs. Should have gotten the Nobel Prize for each war, but I don't say that. I say millions and millions of people. They said, sir, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back and ran as president and vice president, they couldn't beat you. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place. And they are losers. One thing I've noticed, China makes almost all of the windmills. And yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever think of that?
The thing about Donald Trump is he's actually just totally brain dead and a total fucking moron. Like, there's really nothing more to say about how dumb this motherfucker is. This dumb motherfucker shits himself daily. And he says stuff like, China, no wind farm. Oh, Trump claims China doesn't use wind power. Photo captures the breathtaking scale of China's wind and solar build-out from Yale Environment 360. I mean, it's just one of the things that I oftentimes find myself saying when I see Donald Trump is, what do you even say? What do you even say? He's a fucking dummy. I saw something yesterday, chat, that made me laugh, but not in mirth, in relief, because it's exactly the kind of signs that I've been seeing. You can't run AR farms on solar. Let's be real. I mean, why do you people say stuff? Why do you people you're dumber than dog shit and you know it. Why even bother stringing together a couple words to embarrass yourself? It's just like, why even bother? You and I know you're dumb as shit. You know you're dumb as shit. I know you're dumb as shit. Why even bother? Sometimes you just need to feel something. I mean, I don't think that guy doesn't even really seem like he feels anything, if I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, gold and silver are also soaring today.
What we did for Israel was amazing, but that's nothing compared to what we have planned for the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. We are going to build a dome like no other. We did it for Israel. And by the way, they said, wow, that's amazing. I thought President Trump would get it. President Trump deserves it. He ended up 8 wars. You're asking me to double the cost of prescription. I said, that's right, because you've been screwing us. They called me daddy. Sir, everything you've done has been perfectly executed. I said, I know. Because usually they say he's a horrible dictator type person. I'm a dictator. But sometimes you need a dictator. Perfectly executed. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors.
Said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop it.
They called me daddy.
I bet Al's already started.
It looks like the AI bubble money circle jerk might fall apart soon. I don't know about that, man. Nvidia's plan to invest up to $100 billion in OpenAI has stalled, Wall Street Journal reports. OpenAI is looking to raise $100 billion in funding, valuing it at $830 billion. I mean, it's just like, God damn it, dude. Doesn't it blow your mind how fucked everything is? How destroyed everything is? How it is so fucking wrecked? And they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on the dumbest ass shit. Open presents. Thanks for the 100. Thanks for starting us off strong. Appreciate you. The NVIDIA OpenAI deal has zero impact on our financial relationship with OpenAI. We remain highly confident in OpenAI's ability to raise funds and meet its commitments. Oh, my confident in OpenAI's ability to raise funds t-shirt has people asking a lot of questions already answered by the t-shirt. Oh no. Melt Ice Pigs, thanks for the 5. You know, the thing that really bothers me about all these things is we have a society of just the most evil, dumb shit, motherfuck, bastards. Everything is obviously falling apart. Nothing. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I drove around and I was like, wow, that looks really nice. That looks really freshly constructed and well maintained. Wow, that you could tell this is the richest country in the world. I'm in awe. You know what I mean? I'm just like, Oracle stock went up when they announced they're selling $50 billion in debt to fund more data center builds. I mean, it's going down today. Bitcoin's down a little bit more. All we have spiking today is precious metals again. Precious metals are skyrocketing again. Apparently, Musk just merged SpaceX and OpenAI, or XAI rather, not OpenAI, XAI. Elon Musk's maker SpaceX has acquired artificial intelligence startup XAI in a deal that would value the company at 1.25 trillion. This is like if I said, I'm buying my Magic the Gathering cards in a deal valued at $10 million, chat. I am signing a deal where I owe myself $10 million and I'm going to start making payments to myself immediately. Wow. On my one side of my balance sheet, I have these Magic cards valued at a $10 million mark to market. And on the other side of the balance sheet, I've got $10 million of cash. Wow. I own companies worth a total of over $20 million. Wow. This is crazy. They believe that not being actively destroyed serves as divine proof they're correct and just. Breaking this illusion is a TOS violation. I mean, you're comparing yourself to Elon Musk. Yes, no, I'm not actually. I'm doing a hypothetical. That's not comparing myself. That's not comparing myself. That's a hypothetical. Comparing myself would be like, my penis works. His penis does not. According to the rumors, he has a viciously mutilated penis from attempts to enlarge it. That would be comparing myself. Am I feeling sick? Nah, I'm just a little tired. All right, let's keep going. All right, let's start off with the first story of the day. Trump calls for nationalized voting in 15 states. If you've been following this stream for a while, you know that I've called for and intend to call for French police raided X office in France yesterday. Yes, that's also something I want to talk about today. So I called for a national voting rights bill, a national elections bill. You know, Joe Biden was president and Barack Obama was president. But guess what? They decided not to do it. And in America, we have this patchwork system of elections where each state runs their own elections and it ends up costing way more and it's way more inefficient. And you have all these differences in the way the elections are conducted. So in one state, you got 100% vote by mail and it takes weeks to count the vote. In another state, you have to register 6 months in advance and you can only vote on the day of the election unless you've got some sort of like massive excuse. And basically, the Republican Party they study elections and they go, okay, what methods of election like voting does my opposition use? And then they move to like make that more inconvenient. They're constantly tinkering around the edges to make voting worse in a way that advantages themselves. Now, it doesn't always work, but they're constantly trying to do that. Donald Trump is escalating that. He wants to enforce the most Republican-oriented strategy on the country as a whole.
Escalating his rhetoric ahead of the midterm elections. The president yesterday called for Republicans to take over elections while ranting about his 2020 loss to Joe Biden. Trump made the comments during an interview with right-wing podcaster, also former FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino.
These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win. Now you're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get with a court order the ballots. You're going to see some interesting things come out. But, like the 2020 election, I won that election by so much. Everybody does it.
The president, of course, has no constitutional power on the issue of elections. Here's what the Washington Post points out. Under the Constitution, the times, places, and manner of holding elections are determined by each state, not the federal government. Congress has only the power to set election rules. All these comments come as officials in Fulton County, Georgia, confirm they will challenge the FBI's seizure of 2020 election documents in court. The Fulton County commissioner said yesterday the county will argue the search warrant used to justify.
I personally think that everybody needs to understand that ICE is going to be used like the Gestapo or the SA was in the German elections. And I think people need to be ready for Trump and Republicans in general to just become anti-democratic in the sense that Republicans are together, all of them, and some millions of them, are going to be focused on turning their brains off. I don't know if you saw Hassan interviewed those MAGA parents, the TikTokers, and they sound exactly like Germans did during Nazi Germany, which is they've turned their brain off and they're basically like, well, they must be doing it for a reason. And they don't even bother. They don't even bother coming up with facts or evidence. They just say they trust Trump and he must be doing it for a reason.
By last week's raid,
the MAGA parents are now defending Epstein. I think one of the things that really concerns me is the lack of a militant resistance. And I don't know how to change the culture of people that have been fighting for gun control and they don't want to look hypocritical. For a long time, like for some reason, people think that you're not allowed to look at circumstances and change your mind. Like a lot of people have been psyoped into believing that you can't make distinctions or exceptions between different conditions. It's like, no, I will not. It's like, I will only take a shower at the exact same temperature. I don't care what the, if it's summer or winter. And it's like, well, maybe in the summer you like a cooler shower because you're hot from coming in from the outside and the cooler shower might feel better. And maybe in the winter you like a nice steamy shower because it can, it's cold outside and you're getting warmed up. Like, why aren't you able to change the temperature of the fucking shower that you're taking? Why does every shower have to be the exact same temperature? It's like weird. It's like only wanting to cook on medium heat. Sometimes cooking calls for high heat. Sometimes it calls for low heat. Depends on what you're trying to make and what the conditions are, what the ingredients are. And like the conditions now and the ingredients now demand that you learn that you get weapons and you learn how to use them. And you start finding a group of people that can start operating in ways that they could resist fascism actively. And, I might think that in a stable country, in a stable civil society, regular people should have to go through some procedures to get guns. At this point, we're well beyond that. We're well beyond that. And you're not a hypocrite if you think you should be arming up right now. You're not a hypocrite if you also think that under a stable society, there should be some gun control.
Bring a gun into the district, you mark my words, you're going to jail. I don't care if you have a license in another district, and I don't care if you're a law-abiding gun owner somewhere else. You bring a gun into this district, count on going to jail, and hope you get the gun back. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's amazing how accountability works, when people think that if they actually get arrested, they might have to do time and they might be taken off the street. It sort of puts a little different message into people's heads.
And you bring a gun into the district, you mark my words, you're going to...
The Second Amendment and guns, I think this is what, to me, like, I'm not pointing this out for the hypocrisy reason. I'm not doing a Jon Stewart and going like, look how hypocritical they are. What I want you to understand is that this is a sign of an intent to commit oppression via force and an understanding of how power operates, which is now that they hold state power, they don't give a shit about your stupid Second Amendment or making profit for fucking, Smith & Wesson or what the stuff they used to care about. They no longer care about it. This is about finding ways of putting their opposition in prison. And, my feeling is that we are dangerously close. The only Rubicon that we haven't truly crossed is the use of ICE to actively arrest U.S. citizens or protesting ICE without using, they claim when they take American citizens that they are, they were mistakenly arrested, right? They've already arrested American citizens. They've already murdered American citizens on the street. I honestly don't even think there's any lines really more that they can cross. It's just a matter of scale.
I don't care if you have a license in another district, and I don't care if you're a law-abiding gun owner somewhere else. You bring a gun into this district, count on going to jail, and hope you get the gun back. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's amazing how accountability works, when people think that if they actually get arrested, they might have to do time and they might be taken off the street. It sort of puts a little different message into people's heads.
And you bring a gun into the district.
I mean, that's really what you need to see. And I think it is useful for regular people to see the way they're hypocritical. I actually think the gun issue is a huge way to get kind of dumb guys who maybe would be interested in Bernie Sanders, but kind of don't like the Democrats for a variety of cultural reasons, guns being primarily among them. I think we need to like use the way that Republicans are now pro gun control and anti Second Amendment. That is actually a really good wedge. Like gun culture is like, I don't think that this is gonna work the way they think. I think gun culture in America is a lot more ingrained and a lot more, believe it or not, apolitical. I don't think it's gonna work. And so when I see this shit, the Alex Preddy stuff, being a licensed gun owner and being killed, even though he never drew his gun, he never tried to threaten anybody with a gun. And now they're saying that, oh, because he had a gun, it was okay to shoot him. I think that is a really hard argument. And I do think it is something that anybody with any level of good faith, who's not a complete Trump cultist, looks at and is like, what the fuck? And I think you're starting to see that reflected in polling numbers and other reality, right? Like you're starting to see, oh, no shit. People really are like pissed that they killed Alex Preddy. Like, I think more people are I think more people are pissed about the Alex Preddy one because he was like, if you watch the video, the guy did absolutely nothing wrong. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's a cold-blooded murder. There's no way to shade it. There's no way to look at it and go, oh yeah, he deserved it. And I personally, I've always been somebody who has enjoyed guns or thought of guns as a tool in the past. I don't have any weird hangups. I mean, I've been shooting since I was a fucking child. But I was never an ammo-sexual. I was never obsessed with guns. I guess it's because I had a normal relationship with guns. You know, like my dad and I were not gun guys. Like we didn't really give a shit. We had like a healthy masculinity. We didn't need to replace our masculinity with a fucking gun. So we just didn't care. You know, we would talk about like cooler shit. Like guns are boring, to be honest with you. It's like being obsessed with a drill or something. We would be talking about like Corvettes and German cars and planes and like cool shit, sports, skiing, you know what I mean? Surfing, like building shit. Like that's what I did with my dad. We would go camping. We would do all that shit. Even and he didn't really give a, like, you know what I mean? Like PA surfer. My dad and I would fucking drive down to the Jersey coast and we would body surf the fucking Jersey water. Okay? Like, and you know what? That's fucking awesome. The Jersey is the Atlantic coast off of New Jersey different. I watched a lot of X-Cop and other right-wing kind of Second Amendment YouTube reviews of the Alex Preddy shooting, and almost all of them can't make any excuses to okay the shooting. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. We should lean into that. And also, we need guns for protection from the government, because the government is tyrannical and they're actively trying to suppress people so they could do they're violating the Constitution. I want to show you something, chat. I want to show you something. Let's watch this video. You may not know this about me, but the content that I watch on my own, occasionally, like when I'm cleaning the house or whatever, I will occasionally watch engineering type nerd fucking channels. Surprise, surprise, right? And I was listening to one, and I want you to understand something, chat. Technology Connections made a video. I was cleaning the house with VO, and I had an earbud in, and Technology Connections made a video. And the first was explaining why renewable energy is good. You know what I mean? Like explaining the difference between renewable energy and fossil fuel energy in like a very straightforward way, in a very practical way that I really, really appreciated, because he says in the video, he's like, as soon as I learned about renewable energy, I realized that it was like super important that we do this, and it was game changing. And I was like, yeah. But then he explained, people don't seem to understand that you have to burn fossil fuels. They don't seem to understand that when you have a battery, a lithium ion battery, you're not burning it. When you have solar panels, nothing is burned. It's just permanent infrastructure that then creates free electricity for decades. The price of energy is just going to go up. But you bought a solar panel 25 years ago, which means your costs are not going up. They're going down. If you buy a battery, like the batteries we have now last for decades with basically no degradation. And even when a battery degrades, it doesn't get burned. All that happens is you know, and this is a very important point that he made, is that inside the battery, it's a reversible chemical reaction. Well, you know, in the process of cycling back and forth, sometimes the physical, arrangement of the materials can change, blocking the reversibility of that reaction. The lithium's still there. Eventually, all we'll have to do is take the batteries, grind them up, and it's basically pure ore. And they'd be reprocessed very cheaply compared to going and mining more lithium. We don't find a big chunk of lithium somewhere. We have ores, which just means it's a substance that's richer in the target element that has to go through many processes to get the target out the end. A lithium battery, an old lithium battery, is a pure ore. They just grind it up, processes it very easily, very cheaply, and you'll be able to produce new. So this is basically what people don't seem to understand about renewable energy is it'll just mean that you will have basically free electricity. The more infrastructure we build, the richer we are permanently. Whereas if you burn fossil fuels, you have to go and find more of them, and they burn and then they're gone. And the fact that America can't seem to understand that is fucking ridiculous. Let me just show you. But then, so he has this video. I'm listening along. I'm like, this is some good rhetoric. This is some good shit, you know?
Ludicrously. Sorry, yeah, this isn't the actual end. If you watch until the actual end, I promise I'll explain why I did that.
So he has a video for an hour explaining renewable energy, explaining batteries, explaining how it's just economically better, environmentally better, how, you know, it changes the way we should think about electricity. And he starts having credits, and then all of a sudden this pops up.
But for now, I want to ask you something. This video makes sense to you? A while ago, I put a quick talking to camera thing together on my second channel where
actually, I'm going to skip ahead because this part's funny, but it's not necessary for the point I'm making. Okay, here we go.
And opportunity. And that's why when I look at an electrical panel, I don't see a boring piece of infrastructure everyone has in their house. I see an endless variety of new opportunities. If you've got a natural gas connection, then you probably have, at most, 4 appliances which actually utilize it. Meanwhile, literally everything else you own is powered by the wires that are in your house. Everything we've invented in the last, century is electric. All the innovation we've been doing to make our lives better relies on electricity. And all the innovation which happens in the realm of fossil fuels is how to use them slightly more efficiently. That's it. And we're already damn near perfectly optimized in a lot of cases. There's very little room left to innovate.
Oh, but President, thanks for another 100.
But we are always
best,
innovating with electric technologies. And since your house already has wires in it, you can add new things and new technologies to your home with very little effort. When the personal computer hit the scene, nobody needed to do an engineering study or get permits to get one because you just plug it in. Some things, like installing an electric car charger, are a little more difficult, but they still utilize the feed wires you already have and the power grid which already exists. Electrification seems like the most rational thing we should be doing. We can leverage infrastructure, which is already in place, to distribute and utilize the free energy we can harvest from the sun, the wind, or maybe even the hot rocks beneath our feet.
I really think that if you have anybody who is like slightly skeptical about renewable energy, the first hour of this video is very important. If they are actually open-minded and they want to know what the arguments are and they want to know what the facts are, like, this video is so well done. And it does like-to-like comparisons of like the cost of solar panels, and they're fucking cheap, and they're getting cheaper even in America. The cost of the batteries, and it compares it to running like a regular car. And basically, the like solar panels and battery backups are getting to the point where it is the most rational thing you can buy for yourself. Let me share this link. But the thing is, I'm sure everybody here already knows this shit, already believes it, already agrees with it. We don't need to like go through why renewable energy works. I assume you're not a complete moron. If you want to check out this video on your own, here's the link. But the reason why I wanted to watch this video, chat, is the rise of China is creating a new opportunity for the left. And I worry that a lot of people who are dumb liberals and faux progressives are scared to embrace that new opportunity. And that opportunity is, quite simply, for the kind of engineering autist who traditionally was in the Republican Party, And now we have China, and they're doing a lot of really cool engineering shit. And our country seems to be fucking itself up. And so I kind of think that the sign that socialism is on the upswing is when we do have a lot more guys becoming interested in socialism. When people are becoming interested, not just because of the moral argument about the equal worth of human beings, but guys who are very practical and oriented in technology and engineering are like, oh no, it's clearly better. Because Marxism is scientific socialism. That's what it is. It's supposed to be an attempt to understand the world as it actually exists. It's an attempt to understand economies and political philosophy and political economy with a scientific lens. That's the point of Marxism. It is not about making moral arguments.
And we can bulk up that infrastructure if and when we need to support new demand down the road, in many cases simply by replacing wires and transformers. That's how the grid went from not existing to existing basically just for electric lights to everyone has air conditioning now. And
by the way, chat, Yanis Varoufakis catching up to me. I've been saying this have I not been saying this forever, chat? Have I not been saying that forever? We'll talk about that later.
And that's a perfect segue. Ooh, those were also electric. Anyway, that's the perfect segue to addressing the misled in the video title. And now the snark levels are gonna go up a bit. Let's just roll some clips. You know, I also just want to point out, I drove my electric car out here. I'm 134 miles from Millennium Park in downtown Chicago, which is a pretty rural area, and yet there's a lot of people who think you can't drive electric cars out in the country. I don't know what that's about. Something else I should point out, I didn't spend any time charging the car because I spent the night at a friend's house, and her house, believe it or not, has electricity. So I just plugged the car into her house and then it charged overnight. It's wild. Did you know homes have electricity? You know, I should also point out that I parked my car right next to one of these because I wanted to find out if they really make that noise that some people say they make. And you know, I can hear some whooshing from the blades every time it goes past, but it's not that loud. Standing right beneath it, and I can hear the blade whooshing by, but I don't know. Just take a listen for yourself. Are these really that loud? Let me just walk around this way. By the way, I'm also taking a look on the ground to see if there's a bunch of dead birds around here. I hear that these things are just murder factories for birds, but I don't know. I'm not seeing any. It's a really windy day out, honestly.
You know what's more of a murder factory for birds? The monoculture agriculture we do. That's more of the murder factory for birds.
Just the wind is kind of louder than the whooshing of the blades. Yeah. If it's not clear yet, I'm going there. But before I do, it's important to me that you understand and grasp the difference between small p politics and capital P partisanship. A lot of people in the United States right now confuse those two and think any discussion of a political issue must have been bought and paid for by the other team. That's just not how any of this works. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, then you should already have a pretty clear understanding of what my personal politics are. If you've been under the impression that I've not been political, you simply don't understand what politics means. I have indeed stayed out of partisan politics and electoral politics, but I've been wearing my personal politics on my sleeve this whole time, and they've not been that subtle. Remember that thing I said about getting the most value out of how we spend our money and time? The money part is obvious, but the time part might be less so. I have a tremendous respect for the working people of this country. I certainly have a cushy job these days, but I used to work in the hotel industry, and I have not forgotten what it's like to make ends meet on $14 an hour, nor have I forgotten the amazing and underappreciated housekeeping staff who were the only reason we could even be in business. My connection to those women and their families is absolutely part of my personal politics, and if the foreshadowing of that isn't clear enough, my God, have you not been paying attention? I believe in the value of labor, and I also respect the purpose of labor. Our housekeeping staff was there to do the grunt work of cleaning rooms and doing laundry, a sort of domestic labor we have never truly valued. Front desk me was there to help people with whatever problems they might be having. Did you know businesses used to put their real phone numbers on their websites? When you called my hotel, the front desk phone rang, and it was my job to say hello and ask what you needed. It was old-fashioned, but it worked, and way better than every single customer service chatbot I have been forced to interact with lately. When I think about the laborers who work on, say, oil rigs, I respect what they're doing immensely. Those people toil day in and day out to make our lives possible, which is noble work. But I also think there's a crassness to that work. Because if we must toil, why should we toil as Sisyphus on drilling platforms, doing work that brings us fuel to spin our wheels but which moves us nowhere? We should build with what we extract. We should not just set it on fire. And when we build things which make our lives easier, we improve the human condition. Basically, I just want us to learn stuff and grow our bag of tricks. And that's what I've been preaching from this channel the whole time. Sometimes that's through looking at interesting pieces of old technology and making connections between them. There are a lot of lessons we've already learned as a species, but which can easily be forgotten if folks aren't sharing those stories. Other times, that's through teaching things like the difference between power and energy, basic facts of our world that, if you can learn to intuit, are very helpful for understanding your energy bills or, indeed, just how much opportunity solar panels unlock. Everything I do here is rooted in my belief that all of us should have some basic understanding of how the stuff we use in our lives works and what the impact—
I agree with this, by the way, completely. I agree with this completely. I think you should have an understanding of how your car works. I think you should have an understanding of how your computer works, or your toaster works, or your oven works, or your HVAC system works, or your plumbing system works, or your electrical system works. Like, you should have that knowledge. You shouldn't be a fucking peasant looking around confused all the time.
Act of using that stuff is, both on ourselves and our fellow humans. It is very empowering and protects you from people who would otherwise leverage your ignorance and scam you into things you don't actually need. And another core piece of my personal politics comes from something we know deep in our hearts, even if we sometimes like to pretend it isn't true. We accomplish more when we work together and collaborate. The power grid is the ultimate example of that. I believe the power grid is the most miraculous machine our species has ever created. Once we figured out how useful this whole electricity business was, we took great efforts to run wires to almost every structure in this country, even remote farmhouses, which a traditional view of capital would tell you could never recoup that infrastructure investment. If you've never spent time amongst the cornfields, you might not have seen the poles and wires that run for miles sometimes to serve just a single house. We decided it was so important that everyone have access to electricity that our government made that happen, when the private sector certainly would not. But somewhere along the line, we lost the will to do that. If you don't know anyone who lives in a rural area, you might not know how horrible it can be to get reliable internet access out there. Even though it's totally possible to get networking anywhere with wireless technologies, internet service providers are doing the math and realizing, oh, they're just not going to make very much money getting broadband out to the boonies. So they didn't. And somehow the most rational response to this reality is a constellation of satellites in low Earth orbit? As impressive as that is technologically, it's kind of crazy-making that we're fawning over that solution rather than just, like, blanketing the country in 4G a little bit better. We've got countless point-to-point networking options, which don't involve launching rockets into space, but we dragged our feet so long that satellite constellations somehow seem rational. Don't get me wrong, I used to rely on Starlink. And as someone dealing with either a 6 megabit DSL line with a whole 1 megabit upload speed, great for a YouTuber, a flaky 4G connection that would get overwhelmed to the point of becoming useless if too many people were in the area at the same time, Starlink was a miracle. But if AT&T could just get a better trunk line to that tower and maybe put some extra radio equipment there if needed, well, then I would never have needed Starlink. And what really makes me pull my hair out is that AT&T absolutely knows that tower is getting overwhelmed. Or at least they should if they're running analytics. They just don't. It's not a big enough problem for them. Launching satellites into space to make rural broadband happen is an admission of laziness and defeat from both big telecom and the government. It's a solution a billionaire could provide and happily monetize, but it's not necessarily the best solution, now is it? That's called looking at something with an eye for nuance and complexity. Not everything is black and white, but the truth is. And here are some true facts I'd like you to know. And now we are getting into partisan politics. Go ahead and click away if you don't want to hear any of this. But did you know that President Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House? They were not photovoltaic panels, though those did exist at the time. They were instead solar water heating panels. Those are still common today in sunny climates. They're effectively just boxes with black pipes zigging and zagging back and forth, and solar radiation heats the water inside the pipes for free and without using any electricity or fuel. Carter did this to promote the idea of alternative sources of energy, something that was very much on our mind during the energy crisis of the 1970s. And then, in 1986, President Ronald Reagan took them down. Supposedly, the White House was getting its roof resurfaced, so they were taken off, which is understandable. But what's less understandable is that he never bothered to put them back. President Carter was a Democrat, and President Reagan was a Republican. And in the years since, there has been a repeating pattern where Democratic administrations attempt to usher in new energy technologies to free us from endless extraction, and then Republican administrations swiftly undo that.
So at this point, I was like, "Oh, come on, man! Like, it's a lot more It's a lot worse than that. The Democratic Party is dog shit too. The Democratic Party is dog shit too. They make only halting effort to push renewable energy."
We just went through this when President Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act, a weirdly named piece of legislation which included a lot of spending for renewable energy and electrification investment in this country to make panels and batteries here. Investments that I hope by now you understand were to lower our costs in the future, improve our national security, and make our lives better. But then President Trump got into power and told his Republican Congress critters to repeal that law almost immediately. Except no, that's not actually what happened. President Trump signed some executive orders which froze much of the funding, bypassing the very structure of our Constitution, which explicitly gives Congress the power of the purse. We actually have a whole law, the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Control Act of 1974, which explicitly makes what Trump did illegal. But Republicans currently control both houses of Congress, and they've made it very clear they do not care to provide the checks and balances they're constitutionally obligated to do. They're desecrating our Constitution because they happen to be on the same team as the guy in the White House. And as we all know, the primary objective of this administration is to own the libs. Or is it kidnapping brown people? It's getting kind of hard to tell. I didn't think masked cowards with guns going around demanding papers please was on the bingo card of my 30s, but apparently it was. And having looked at that card a little more closely, I mean, I've almost got a bingo without even using a free space. I've already crossed off threatened to invade Greenland and destroy NATO, threatened to annex Canada, and papers please, so all I need now is a few murders of US citizens which were captured on video from multiple angles. What's that? Cross that off too? Well, surely I'm not going to be able to cross off government officials telling us our eyes didn't see what we saw. Bingo. Folks, you need to wake up and smell the fascism. I don't know what imaginary lines you might have drawn which could be crossed, but if you can't agree we've crossed a very bad one, you need to get off Twitter and stop watching Fox News or Newsmax or OANN or whatever those new ones are, or, I'm so sad to say, CBS News. It's bad. We're clearly living under leaders who have a completely different understanding of reality than the rest of us do. And they are so high on their own supply that their followers will believe abject lies. Renewable energy is only controversial because they made it so. And they don't want you thinking through the reality which is free energy from reusable materials, as I've just explained. They have donors who still make money selling you fossil fuels. And so they do not want you thinking about how much you're spending and how we have the opportunity to stop. Even worse, they'll artificially lower the cost of fossil fuels through subsidies, even though they're supposedly the party against that sort of thing. I am very scared of what the future of this country looks like. The Bill of Rights looks to be effectively dead. Our First Amendment right to protest is being challenged through intimidation. And the press that dares to tell the truth is being declared an enemy of the people. Our Fourth Amendment right to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures is being gleefully violated, and nobody seems to care. even the Second Amendment might as well be lost. Our government used the fact that Alex Preddy, a legal firearm holder with a concealed carry permit, had a gun on him to justify his murder.
I think one of the things that I always say, and it's very important, because whenever you find yourself reacting to somebody's radicalization with thoughts like, what took you so long? You are fucking up. You are fucking up. Because every single one of us had a ladder to radicalization. Every single one of us had a moment where we were shaken out of our complacency, or we learned some fact and we had some moment and we realized that the shit is fucking fake. Now, once you have that realization, you start interpreting new information in a certain way. You know, you have an evangelization moment where you're looking around and you're saying, why aren't other people seeing what I'm seeing? And you rush around and you try to change people's minds. And that is a great impulse. And then as you get a little bit more mature as a radical, you get to the point of burnout and frustration. Your rational mind no longer remembers what it was like to be dumb. Your rational mind has tried everything you can come up with to change people's minds. And you start having this deep sense of frustration and resentment from the people that haven't come to your way of thinking yet. And this is the most dangerous part of being a leftist. This is where your personal morality, your personality, your ability to be steadfast, your ability to maintain scientific thought is challenged. And many people fall and fail at this stage. And whenever somebody is starting to radicalize in front of them, they get their frustration comes through, and they try to stop the person by insulting them, by being negative, by being, oh, what took you so long? There were so many other crimes that were happening before, and this is the crime that radicalizes you? You're a piece of shit, they'll say. And I gotta tell you, whenever I hear that shit, I think you're a dumbass. I don't have these politics because I'm trying to show people that I'm a good person. I don't have my politics because I am a better type of person. And when somebody changes their mind and is coming in my direction and is radicalizing, I want to say you're right and bring them along with positivity and support. When somebody who has a channel that is very successful at 3 million subscribers and who doesn't need to say anything explicitly political to alienate anyone, who is just comfortable and making a lot of money, comes out and starts making very strongly progressive statements, even if they're not socialist or communist, I am not going to shit on that by going, what took you so long? I'm going to say, welcome, comrade. And I'm going to be supportive while also pushing some thoughts that maybe they haven't had yet, that they're freshly open to, like the problem with the Democratic Party and its corruption. And am I treating them? Am I not? Is it not true that I was right before them? Shouldn't I kind of have that sense of superiority? I figured it out before you did, and I've been arguing this longer than you. Aren't I better than you in a certain type of way? The answer to that is no. And that self-conception, that ego, is another layer of your liberalism that you have not dispensed with yet. Because if you weren't a liberal, you would understand that society and human beings are not an island. They don't have the opinions they have. You haven't studied. You haven't read enough. Because if you think it's because of an individual moral failing, you don't comprehend Gramsci. You don't comprehend the reality of how society inculcates the dominant ideology of the ruling class into the people. And you're morally lucky that you have the right opinions on anything, because you failed to understand the mechanisms that we're going through. It's why people that are against, like, socialists from running for office are so wrong, is because they are privileging their own desires and their own analysis to a dispassionate analysis of the state of society. And as Gramsci said, we are in a war of position, not a war of maneuver. You want us to be in a war of maneuver because that is more exciting. That is more dramatic. That is instant gratification. But we are in a war of position, which means we are not ready to launch that aggressive assault that you are calling for. We don't have the forces. We don't have the position. We don't have the readiness. We are still building up. And being an early adopter of a revolutionary ideology, dangerous and annoying. Congratulations. Welcome. That's the first lesson you need to learn. Yes, he could be even more radical in the way he's phrasing this shit. But this is someone that's clearly on the ladder of escalation. And I want to welcome that. And I want to champion that as a win for us, as opposed to turning a W into an L.
So do we have a right to bear arms or not? Sure doesn't seem like it. If you're upset that a tech creator like myself is suddenly being explicit about politics, then you're not paying enough attention and are part of the problem. I should not have to do this. I never thought I'd be making a video where I said, hey guys, remember that whole Constitution thing? I figured our leaders would always uphold it, but they're clearly not. The document does not enforce itself, and so it is up to us. We had a revolution in 1776 to escape the tyranny of British rule, and the Declaration of Independence describes what's going on right now with distressing clarity. Let me quote it for you. He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefit of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. Those words were written about King George, but they might as well describe Donald Trump. We fought the Revolutionary War to be free of tyrannical kings, but it looks like we're under tyranny again, inflicted on ourselves. You may have been one of those people who likes to stay out of politics, but politics eventually comes for everyone. Here we are. For the love of God, please learn from this and remember what happens when you stop paying attention and let other people think for you. It doesn't end well. Now, as scared as I am still going to vote in the midterms, and I will be voting against Republicans. I think you should too. And yes, because the realities of our terrible two-party system don't always sink into everyone, I am saying I think you should vote for Democrats in November. I am not a huge fan of a lot of what the Democratic Party is up to these days. They seem, unfortunately, to be far more beholden to corporate interests than they're concerned with the lives of their constituents. Universal health care still hasn't happened, and the best reason I can think that's the case is that the for-profit healthcare lobby is very influential.
Now, again, a lot of people will look at this and be like, oh, he's talking about voting. And if you've watched me for a while, you understand the ladder of escalation that everybody has to go through. I wish people could skip steps and realize that it's not going to work and we can't do this and we can't do that. Everybody has to go through these experiences. They need to have that period of frustrated reform. And personally, I do want you to vote to get the Republicans out of power. I think it's absolutely necessary. I think it's absolutely necessary. We now have the position that we were going to have, which is the left is surging. The corporate oligarchic Democratic Party elite is under threat, and that's the reality that we always were going to get. That was always the best case scenario. I honestly think that we may be living in the best case scenario as far as the left pushing itself forward. It's not going far enough. It's not going fast enough, but it is happening, and people are realigning and they are radicalizing. Right here, this guy is basically saying he would vote for Zohran Mamdani, right? He's talking about the health insurance lobby on his technology channel. This is a good sign. This is a sign of winning. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to be like, no, guys, no, he's not radical enough. He's not calling for armed revolution on the streets. And it'd be like, even if he did, even if he said that right now, that's not enough. Calling for shit is no different than posting. What I want you to look at is the trajectory of the normie. The trajectory of the normie. You are the more advanced members of the class, which means you have the responsibility to organize and inform and agitate the less informed members of our class. That's your job. Stop raising your hands up like a fucking liberal and going, why don't you have the right answers? Your job is to give them that and be the leader. If you know more, it is your job to educate. And if you have any attitude but that, you're a fucking liberal. The normies are starting to release more and more pro-commie content. That's funny.
Meanwhile, constituents such as myself haven't even been able to leave a voicemail at any of Senator Durbin's offices because they're all the inboxes are full. They've been very disappointing. But right now, we're heading into a primary season, and you'll have the opportunity to vote in those primaries very soon to tell Democrats how you want them to act. Please make sure you're registered to vote in general and in the Democratic primary if that's required in your state. If you don't know how to do that, call or walk into your local library. The people there have the same mission I do, to share knowledge and be helpful, and they'll guide you. Be sure you ask them how the primary process works in your state and whether you need to declare a party affiliation to vote in it. And by the way, just throwing this out there, the process of registering to vote is how we verify the citizenship of voters. You have to be on the voter rolls before you can cast a vote. But it's a lot easier for Republicans to ignore that fact and lie by omission to make you think massive voter fraud from non-citizens keeps happening. They lie all the time, and people need to stop listening to them. This isn't just normal politicians always lie stuff. This is active propaganda designed to make you distrustful of your fellow human beings. It's disgusting and shameful. How did we get to a place where the president can say other countries pay for tariffs and literally nobody cares that he's lying? He's counting on his base not understanding that you can't just charge someone extra money when you buy something from them, because that's just not how trade works. Hell, that's not even how commerce works. I can't walk into Menards and demand they pay me to buy their products. But the only people who were willing to say that plainly were independent journalists and freaking YouTubers. The stalwarts of the press just kept writing headlines as if reality was up for debate. And they still haven't cut that shit out. It is terrifying how nobody is interested in holding anyone accountable for anything these days. But while I am terrified, I am also increasingly hopeful. The people of Minnesota are demonstrating what we have to do. We have to care for each other.
Do I have any thoughts on Penn State? Good school. It's kind of expensive for a state school, though. That's the only issue.
Don't wait for someone to lend a helping hand. Be that helping hand. Organizing networks are popping up everywhere because those of us who manage to grow up into adults who care about people other than ourselves are not going to stand by and let this illegitimate government run by petulant toddlers violate the Constitution and the very principles that make America great. My fellow Midwesterners in Minnesota have made me so proud. Stay strong and keep teaching us how to be brave and resist this horrible chapter of our history with steadfast, nonviolent defiance. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a lawless group of masked thugs terrorizing our cities and neighbors for daring to look not quite white. Anyone who has any understanding of history will know that it is happening here. And if you believe that to be true, then you should also believe that ICE must be abolished. And if that freaks you out, I'm gonna guess you've been told the people who say that want completely open borders. Some people do. But most people simply took the poem on the Statue of Liberty as meaningful and think this country should open its arms wide and provide a legal pathway to immigration, just as our ancestors did on the storied Ellis Island. It is our decades-long inability to have true immigration reform occur which put us in this place. And what we're doing today to fix it is clearly wrong. It is a racist, ethnic cleansing operation happening on the pretext of child care fraud, which was already being investigated and dealt with by the state of Minnesota, but which some terminally online weirdos somehow got wind of and spun into this madness. And that madness is being perpetrated by agents of the state and endorsed by Republicans. Republicans could stop this now, but they won't. And the reason I know we absolutely can abolish ICE I am older than ICE. In fact, I'm older than the entire Department of Homeland Security. That agency was created post 9/11, and in retrospect, the folks who thought Homeland Security sounds kind of ominous were apparently correct. We need to throw this system out and start over. And so yes, I believe ICE must be abolished. There is no reforming that agency of thugs. It has to go. And the lawless criminals hiding behind masks who are violating the Fourth Amendment day in and day out need to be prosecuted for each and every one of their crimes. I will be voting in the primaries, and I sure as well hope my representative Sean Casten starts saying that with clarity and conviction. Sean has been one of the people who understand the realities of renewable energy and has been a longtime advocate of it, so we've been pretty aligned, but we're not aligned on everything, and my patience is starting to break. So, if you made it here, thank you for watching. I hope we can bring some sanity back to this country and that we can start calling lies what they are, and you will have to be a part of that. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, and if you don't know where to start the conversation, that's why there's that fake ending. If you think it might get some gears turning, go ahead and watch this video with someone and stop it there. See how it goes. And if you want to send it to someone with a link, there's an unlisted version of this video on my second channel which actually stops at the fake ending. The link is in the description, and a card should be popping up now. I would pin a comment too, but I am not interested in knowing just what sort of replies that will get. I am all but certain it will be depressing. The future has always been in our collective hands, but we need to stop tolerating lies. We need to stop tolerating greed. And we need to stop tolerating politicians who care more about their corporate donors than they do their constituents. We need to care about our future more than we care about the price of eggs or the price of gas. And most importantly, we need to care for each other. There is a duty of care in everything we do, and that's the simplest way to put my personal politics. Start acting like you take that duty seriously. A free future depends on it. A future with liberty and justice.
Well, there you have it, chat. I just wanted to show you that because this is a Technology Connections, 3 million subscriber nerd channel. And, that escalated, right? It started partisan, but then he also was going after centrist Democrats. And he ended with that more radical position that's now the moderate position of abolishing ICE and punishing ICE for their crimes. Alternative title, Technology Connections talks about solar and then goes nuclear. He fixed our dishwashers. We could trust him. You know something really bad happened when the nicest teacher at school gets this angry. This is the most angry someone could get while holding a solar panel. There are 3 things all wise men fear: the sea in a storm, a night with no moon, and the anger of a gentle man. See, it seems like it's going pretty well. It seems like everybody loves the video, man. Letting the algorithm know this video should be recommended. I mean, honest to God, this was such a banger. And the science part, the beginning of it, the talk of renewable energies was so good. Like, I know that me watching this type of video is not going to bring in a whole bunch of new people. They're not going to see this thumbnail and go like, oh, I want to watch these 2 guys. I felt like it's necessary. I want to give this guy support. And I want him to know that there's a lot of us out here fighting. And he's on the right track. All right, let's get back for the nationalized election shit. And then we got more Voidzilla content and everything. So let's keep going.
Their election facility went beyond the scope of what federal law enforcement was legally allowed to do. The commissioner argued that while the FBI was authorized to copy records under a separate court order, agents instead took the original copies, including in-person, absentee, and provisional ballots. Last Wednesday...
Wait, they stole the records of the 2020 election? I do not trust Trump's FBI.
A team of FBI investigators swarmed the Fulton County Elections facility near Atlanta. Officials took 700 boxes of ballots and voter information related to the 2020 presidential election. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was...
By the way, chat, look at if you try to get a COVID test, you go to the free COVID test link. This is what pops up. Lab leak. The true origins of COVID-19. The virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. Data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. This runs contrary to previous pandemics where there were multiple spillover events. Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research. gene altering and organism supercharging at inadequate biosafety levels. Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with COVID-19 like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at the wet market. By nearly all measures of science, if there was an evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced, but it hasn't. They want us to disprove a negative, folks. Human seafood, Hunan Seafood Market, Wuhan Institute of Virology, 7.5 miles. Anthony Fauci pardon. I mean, like, this legitimately is schizo shit. And I don't think you should be laughing any of this off at this point. Like, I'm sorry, guys, but I don't think there's a lot of mirth to be had here. My general feeling is grab a fucking gun, dude. Like, when I see stuff like this, I don't find it funny. I find it incredibly ominous and dangerous. And also, like, it's embarrassing, but in a bone-chilling way. Where it's like, this is what the White House is publishing now? This is Alex Jones' website. Andrew Cuomo's failure. Christ, man. And now he's stealing ballots with Tulsi Gabbard. The fuck is Tulsi Gabbard doing there?
Among them on site during the search and has been leading the White House's ongoing investigation into the 2020 race that Trump continues to falsely label as fraudulent. He just lost it. Meanwhile, we're learning more this morning about President Trump's actions directly after that FBI raid. The New York Times reports the day after the search of the Fulton County elections facility, DNI Gabbard facilitated a call between the president and the FBI team working on this investigation. That reporting is according to 3 people with knowledge of the meeting. The Times writes, quote, the president addressed the agents on speakerphone, questions as well as praising and thanking them for their work on this inquiry. In a letter to lawmakers who were pressing for more details, Gabbard denied that Trump asked questions or issued directives during the call. The paper also pointed to the unprecedented nature of the meeting. Rather than going to senior department or FBI officials, Trump spoke directly to the frontline agents doing the granular work of a politically sensitive investigation in which he has a large personal stake. A White House spokesperson defended the president's Georgia investigation as a whole, saying President Trump pledged to secure America's elections, both the DOJ and FBI. It's a lot for us to get into with.
That's another aspect that is very concerning. It's like, so they're stealing all the ballots and they don't comment about it?
Senior writer at The Dispatch, columnist at Bloomberg Opinion, David Drucker. I think, first of all, the fact that Trump is making this news on Dan Bongino's podcast. Bongino, of course, an election denier who then went in to be number 2 at the FBI. Don't you think if he, as number 2 at the FBI, found proof of election fraud or any of the other conspiracies that podcasters on the right pushed while they were not in the official side of government, don't you think that's what they would have led with? I mean, what is this that we're seeing now that Trump is saying things exist that clearly do not exist?
Is it too soon to use the Groundhog Day analogy?
No, you can use it. It's right.
It's Groundhog Day, Ali. Listen, the president is fixated on this. He will always be fixated on this. It's not even that he's fixated on 1 or 2 particular states where he thinks there were irregularities. He's convinced he won states he couldn't have won in a million years. In the same way, there are Democrats that couldn't, win Idaho, in a million years. And it's just never going to change. And I think that, the question is, number one, how's the public going to continue to react to this, especially when Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation has lost so much bipartisan credibility, right? I mean, 10, 20 years ago, you and I are having a conversation like this. We might be like, well, that politician's a little weird. But, the FBI and the DOJ, I mean, those are, top flight, reliable agencies. So let's just see what they find. Yep. And so now it's just going to be a partisan issue. And those agencies are responsible for that because they have lost so much credibility pushed by the president. I think, the other issue here, getting back to the president's comments about seizing elections or overseeing elections, he uses terminology that then Republicans will explain, no, he's just talking about passing legislation. And I'm waiting for that because I'm sure that is coming. Yeah. I think Democrats right now should actually breathe a sigh of relief that they never succeeded in carving out a filibuster exception for voting rights legislation because
the Republicans just packed the Utah Supreme Court to steal another district. The thing about the filibuster exception is that you would do it and then that would permanently shift how hard it is for Republicans to win. You understand that? That would be part of the larger project. Now, obviously, Joe Biden is not the guy. And Republicans are very likely to do it anyway if they feel like it. And then what?
It's something that Republicans would be using to pass all sorts of new regulations governing how our states and municipalities.
I think one of the things that's really fascinating about the Democrats is it's a party that doesn't believe in passing its own legislation. It doesn't think that if it passed all the legislation that was in its platform, that the country would like it more. You know what I mean? They're like, thank God we weren't able to pass our agenda, or else Trump would have been able to pass more of his. It's like, why do you even exist?
Municipalities both administer elections and how people can vote in them. And one of the things that protects our system from overzealous politicians is the fact that they don't have control over it, and states get to make a lot of these decisions on their own. Counties within the states get to make even more decisions. And it's one of the things that has protected our elections. And as we've seen over the last year plus, the president can talk all he wants about doing this, and there are issues with that. Voter sentiment is reflected by the outcome of these contests, as we saw in Virginia and New Jersey and Georgia, and recently in a state Senate district in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I will also say there is conversation on Capitol Hill right now around one piece of voting-related legislation. It's sort of part and parcel to this shutdown conversation, and I'm not sure it's worth getting in the weeds on right now, but that's an active line of conversation on the Hill. The other thing, though, is when you look at the fact that, yes, they have lost bipartisan credibility at the FBI, at DOJ, here in Washington, and yet, all of the Trump conspiracy theories around winning an election.
If you were God King of the universe, what would be your first order be? Release a knock list of every single American spy and agent in every country in the world with their full name and coordinates. That would be number one. Number two, which would be happening simultaneously, would be surrounding Langley with the 82nd Airborne and then shooting, and they don't stop shooting until nothing is left but a crater. So that would be my first two orders. Anything else? I mean, you know, then we'll go on from there, but that's step one and step two. You forgot about vetting the airborne first? Well, obviously I would only have squads made up of registered Democrats. You know, there would be, you know, all Republicans would be fucking cashiered out of the military immediately. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that, because that would radicalize them too much. You have to be a little bit slower with it, you know? You got to be slower with it. You can't just do it all at once.
He lost. He now has the actual levers of government to go in and try to investigate, taking the original voter files out of Fulton County. Sure, they're suing, but the cat's out of the bag.
The Hague is suing my foreign minister, Ignacio Casas, for complicity in the Gaza genocide. Hell yeah.
On that one. And then the fact that you have the director of national intelligence seemingly inexplicably involved with all of this. I mean, how do you roll that back?
I don't know that you do.
Yeah.
Not for a long time, because it's going to take a successor to President Trump, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat or who knows, to say we're not going to do it. And there is going to be a huge push. And this doesn't absolve Trump, and it doesn't make any of this okay. But you know how this works, Allie. We've covered both parties in Washington for a long time.
Yeah.
Usually, once the seal has been broken, the next person comes along and says, oh, yeah, I know I was against it, but thank you very much. I'll acquire that for myself. Yeah. Somebody's going to have to come in, clean house, and say, we're just not going to do what, in theory, it's now okay to do. And there's going to be a lot of loud voices urging them not to say stop. And that's the only thing that will work. Either that, or there is a case that is so egregious, there is an issue that is so egregious that the magic moment where everybody is going, the magic thing that everybody is gonna all spontaneously come together and do. This is how I know that motherfuckers have never read about Nazi Germany. I want to help you guys. It's never gonna happen. I want to help you guys. It's never gonna happen. As long as food and shit keeps flowing, and materially the average person's life isn't all of a sudden disrupted and becomes extremely painful with an economic collapse, there's not going to be some egregious shit that makes everybody spontaneously rise up. It's not going to happen. Not how it works. This guy eats his eggs out of baked cakes. Exactly. Average everyday people are rising up, but the idea that there's going to be some event, what more could we do? What more are you going to what if they mow down a bunch of protesters? Go look and see what people said when they mowed down protesters to the Vietnam War at Kent State. You don't think the same exact reaction would happen from Republicans if they did it now against anti-ICE protesters?
I mean, fuck, you have Destiny calling for white redneck militias to mow down dipshit protesters in 2020. And you have a bunch of Democrat officials and organizers who are trying to promote that guy. You think there's going to be some event?
Voters collectively say that it's wrong. The problem is that everybody gets their information in different places. Everybody believes what they want to believe. You can listen to Bongino's podcast. You can do whatever you want. And then all of a sudden, you don't even know all of the facts. You only know the facts that have been presented to you. And so we don't have that sort of collective view of the news just with different biases and takes on it the way we did, in a previous generation. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge part of the problem. I would argue that January 6th would have been that egregious line crossed, and yet here we are. I did think, and then we saw the election.
Back in Kent, Ohio, local business owners ran an ad thanking the National Guard. Mail ported to the mayor's office blaming dirty hippies, long hairs, and outside agitators for the violence. I think I saw something recently on this very topic that I want to show you. See if I can find it. Fuck, I can't find it. What do you think about the AI being put into the Pentagon? All right, chat, I want to talk about, there was a clip that I saw, which is very funny because it's exactly what I've been saying to Hassan or about Hassan for a very long time. Where the fuck is my link? Son of a fucking bitch. I lose it? God damn it. All right, here it is. I found it. Jesus.
Have you thought of running in elections?
No.
Well, why not?
Because
look, it's a horrible thing to do. I've done it. I can confirm that it sucks.
Yeah.
Big time. But it does the job. Someone's going to do it.
I know, but
these people have to vote for someone.
Well, I have my people. That's why I'm...
Yeah, okay, you have your people, but not everywhere.
That's true.
And why should these people have their lives destroyed by being elected and not yours?
Well, it's not even about like my life being destroyed necessarily, because my life gets destroyed all the time doing what I'm doing anyway. I mean,
come on.
No, I'm able to.
You're having fun here.
No, I know, but I'm able to overcome it regardless because I have like built this resilient base of support and I have ways of working around it. But my point is there's a finite amount of time and energy and effort that I can spend on this. And I feel like this is how I can maximize my output.
Sure.
Doing agitative propaganda, I think, and also creating a community that is then going out and participating in their own local elections, as many people.
Okay, Hassan's just dead wrong. First of all, who says he can't stream? Fucking stream anyway. Fucking stream anyway. In fact, you'll be able to hire more people and they'll have government fucking jobs helping you stream. Instead of making it your personal stream, you won't make as much money from it because you won't be allowed to, but you just stream anyway. Who gives a fuck? Stream it. Stream like crazy. Talk about the policies that you're doing. Talk about the ideas that you have. Talk about the opposition. Stream all the fucking time. Do IRL streams from the House floor when you vote. Like, who gives a fuck? And you could basically put out, I mean, yeah, you'd have to travel a little bit, but it's a congressional travel fucking thing. You're going to DC, it's chill. You only work 180 days a year. You have a ton of time off. I think the main thing is, the thing that bothers me the most is we're not, like, there's so many opportunities that we're not seizing, and I don't know how to make it happen, man. I think Assad should be Secretary of State. Typically, people who get Secretary of State have very long political careers. It's basically the number 2 position in the government. So you don't usually get Secretary of State as your first government job. That's not usually how that works. But I hear what you're saying.
In my community have already to success.
At some point, you have to go to graduate to the level where you take their voice and you put it into some kind of Congress, maybe a state one, maybe.
No, he could run for federal Congress. What the fuck? This is ridiculous. He could raise millions of dollars easily. And like, obviously Jank is a different story because he doesn't have as many fans as Assad. Like, he just point blank doesn't, right? Like, he's not motivating a bunch of people. Like, it's not even close, really. Why don't you run against Mike? You want me to move somewhere and then run for office right away? Like, come on. That's not how that works.
Yeah, federal one.
I don't know. I know a guy.
Get ready.
I know a guy. His name is Cenk Uygur. He tried to do that and he failed spectacularly. So,
well, failure is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, in 1905, the first Russian Revolution failed, and it gave us Sergei Eisenstein's magnificent movie, The Battleship Potemkin, which was an important first step towards the real thing. Have you thought of running in elections?
This is what I've talked about for a long time, which is We need to take advantage of the powers that we have, of the influence that we have, and turn it into real power. And so I'm so glad to see that Yanis has put him to task. He flew to fucking Qatar to be yelled at and told you got to run for office. That's great. That's fucking great. Jenks run for president? No, we're talking about Jenks run for Congress when he did fucking terrible. Yanis Varoufakis tells Hassan Piker he should run for office. Have you thought of running in elections? It's a horrible thing to do. I've done it. I can confirm that it sucks, but these people have to vote for someone. Pointing to 60,000 viewers. And I said, honestly, we could get to Hassan in Congress easily. And he said, hey, you just want his viewers to find a new politics guy. Hassan would gain viewers. Exactly. He's working. He'd be a Congress member. They work 180 days a year and not hard to stream on working days. It barely qualifies as a job. Honestly, he'd probably stream more. Like, you think he should go straight for Senate? No. He doesn't. No. Congress is the perfect job for a streamer. Legislators only have to manage a small office. They can spend a lot of time talking about policies and ideas. You don't have to make day-to-day decisions on like the way the government functions. Most of it is spending time either like doing investigatory work, supervisory work, or legislative work, or communications. It's like legislator is the perfect job for a streamer. Barely even a job. And the only thing that makes being in Congress suck is raising money. The only thing that makes being in Congress suck is raising money. If you can raise money because you have a lot of fans, it's fucking easy as shit. And my point is that Hassan has enough fans that he could raise the money easily. Have I been to Chongqing? In my heart, I have. Caroline mentioned running for Congress again last night. Send it to me. Send it to me. Because I posted. I said, I love Hassan, but if I was picking a shooter to run for Congress, the answer is Caroline Kwan. Hassan is more valuable as a thought leader. Honestly, they both should run. If I'm being completely honest, they both should do it. In fact, there is a Zionist in LA who I think is very beatable. Just tell Hassan City Hall has reliable internet. Anyway, okay, let's keep pushing. Have you guys seen that a bunch of the comedians that were pushing Trump are now backtracking as his popularity falls off a cliff?
Apparently, Andrew Schultz is kind of sorry. He is sorry for his support of the Nazi for the last election. He apologizes for accidentally bolstering the fascist. So let's see what he has to say here. Let's take a look.
They're doing things that objectively, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, objectively are unconstitutional. So no matter which side of the aisle, you would like to uphold the Constitution a little bit, right? Like you can't go enter someone's home without a warrant, and not some like federal administrative bullshit warrant that they're trying to like skirt around it. Yeah, you cannot enter someone's home without an actual warrant. I think it's like the judicial amendment. It's the Fourth Amendment. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and they're just entering homes. Dude, I saw them arrest somebody for having an accent, and the ICE agent that arrested him had an accent.
Like, you could be nominated for Secretary of State. No, I would want to be either director of the FBI or defense secretary. Something like that. I wouldn't want to be Secretary of State. The CIA wouldn't exist. I would destroy the CIA. If you're like, what job would you want in, the Central Committee? It would be internal security, internal intelligence. That would be the job that I would want. Like MSS, maybe defense secretary, but I'm more interested in internal security, state security. Mike, you could live anywhere in the country as a streamer, find the most favorable district, and you should run. I have a feeling you would be assassinated long before you ever got close to that position, not to discourage you or anything. They best not miss. They best not miss.
Did you see that video? And the guy was like, you got an accent too.
He either watched that Legal Eagle video about the Fourth Amendment and how they're saying administrative warrants count to go into houses even though they need a judicial warrant. He either saw that video or my video where we discussed that. But that's something now that everybody's talking about is they're just lying. ICE is just lying and saying we can come in your house with this warrant, but it's not a real warrant. It's a fake warrant. It's like ICE giving themselves permission to go in, which violates the Fourth Amendment. So he either saw my video or the Legal Eagle video, or maybe somebody else talked about it that I didn't see. But I'm happy to hear him saying this. He's not done yet, though. Let's keep going. Let's see what else he's got for us.
So let's talk about what happened in Minneapolis. ICE murdered an American citizen in cold blood, and then the Trump administration called him a domestic terrorist. That's it.
Yeah.
Like plain and simple.
Yeah.
I see the administration trying to spin it, and it's fucking disgusting. Yeah. It's like they didn't even have a moment where they're like, hey, we're reviewing the footage. We're going to try to see what's really happening. All of them, Trump and all the cronies, put out collective statements that immediately blamed an American citizen that was exercising his First and Second Amendment rights, right? He has the right to protest. He has the right to carry a firearm. He's a legal gun owner, right? There's no question about this whatsoever. And the administration immediately comes out and they try to gaslight the public, which you cannot do when we have 15 different videos of what happened.
Yes.
And
it is what they do, though.
But that is what they do.
Yeah.
And I think that governments have probably been doing this for centuries, millennia. And now you have a public that is armed with phones and we can see what actually fucking happened. And you're not going to just lie to us, plain and simple.
What you're going to see, guys, is as time goes by, there's going to be no middle ground. Either the cult wants you all in, totally shut off your mind, don't believe your lying eyes, just nod along in agreement and hop on board with us. It's either going to be that, or it's going to be slowly but surely shedding more and more people until MAGA gets down to its actual floor, which could be anywhere between 25% and 33%. Right now, we're at 36, 37%. We're talking about getting down to 25%, 28%, thereabouts. And
I think to break into the 20s, we need a recession. You need people to like actually be losing their jobs and losing their homes. That's where to like break the, because right now things are still floating along, right? If you're going to break into the 20s, it's going to take some sort of recession or economic turmoil. I mean, that's really what broke the back of Biden, right? What broke the back of Biden's popularity was the inflation was fucking terrible. And people were, you know, like seeing their grocery bills double and seeing their electricity bills double and seeing housing prices double. And insurance rate, you know, interest rates were going up and insurance was getting more expensive. And so all that was pissing everybody off. So you would need some sort of economic for if you're going to really break, you know, Donald Trump. The reality is like Donald Trump didn't do that well for how badly the Biden administration was run and how they managed to completely piss off their own base and alienate young people. He didn't really win by that much, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, honestly, after 2024. Like the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, that was a very ineffective administration that fucked up everything and delivered almost nothing. And a candidate with absolutely no charisma, no tactical ability, alienating their own base, and he got like 50 or 49% of the vote. Like, that's pretty embarrassing. Well, we're going to elect Gavin Newsom. I find that to be extremely unlikely. I find that, in fact, I would bet against Gavin Newsom. You know, if somebody wants to give me 1-to-1, I would bet against him. You know, I'll bet on not Newsom. Because, and the reason why I say that is right now he's benefiting from being underexposed. He's not like, the only thing that happens is occasionally people could get like one of his posts to go viral and people are so desperate for any kind of pushback that they're ecstatic when it happens. Okay. But if he actually had to go out there and campaign and debate and he's sitting there and people are at like, there's going to be questions. Was it a genocide in Gaza? And he's going to go up there and say no. And everyone's going to boo because 4% of Democrats say no to that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the Iraq war, man. Like, everybody thought Hillary Clinton was going to win because she was a clear front runner. And then Barack Obama popped up going, I would have voted against the Iraq war. You voted for it. And he won. You know, like, and that was, you know, Hillary Clinton had the strongest possible consolidation of the party prior to her running. And she lost. Same thing with almost losing to Bernie. Like, I think Gavin Newsom is that kind of front runner, but I guess anything is possible, right? You know, maybe I'm being too optimistic. I tend to be optimistic. I also think that, and this is my own take. It's something that you all should take with a grain of salt, which is I firmly believe that you should not give any aid and comfort to your enemy. I don't think you should give credit where credit is due or all that other dumb shit. I think that you should ideologically identify who your enemy is in the party. And unless you're getting an active transactional deal in the moment, like I'll do X if you do Y, you should not be giving any credit or any positive talk about anybody who isn't ideologically left. Nothing reserved for Bashir or Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer or JB Pritzker or any of these fuckers. They're all scum as far as I'm concerned. And as far as you should be concerned, you should be looking for reasons to nitpick them and drive their popularity down.
Looks like the more they do, the more they lie, the more they're out over their skis, the more they smear dead Americans who they murdered, the more people go, oh, hey, yo, did I sign up for this? I don't know if I signed up for this one, y'all. All right, he's still not done, though. Let me give you more. Here he is with Charlemagne on their show, Brilliant Idiots, I believe is the name. Let's see what he says here.
Look, I know I had Trump on the podcast, and I'm aware.
Explaining that.
No, but let me just clarify, because I think it is important to say.
That's interesting. Why is Charlemagne trying to get him to not discuss this? I would think Charlemagne would be like, yeah, bitch, apologize. I would think Charlemagne would be like, yeah, don't you have something to say to the people? Don't you have something to say about how you're sorry and you fucked up and next time I won't fuck up that bad?
No, and I'm aware.
Explaining that.
No, but let me just clarify, because I think it is important to say, like, I know how I had him on the podcast, and so when I'm talking out about this, I'm not doing it to, like, get people to be like, oh, he's a good guy or whatever like that, or trying to get anybody on my side. I understand that this is a horrific event that happened. I objectively want to talk about it.
I got to be honest, man. Andrew, you know how it comes across? When you had on Trump and you guys were giggling with him and chuckling with him and shooting the shit and having like an easy interview and not really asking any tough questions, when you had him on, you were surfing the vibes online. It was very fashionable in
I thought you liked JB Pritzker. I didn't like any of them, but I was trying to find the people that would be signaling the most concessions to the left. But I never liked him, and I always said I don't like any of them. But I wanted the most concessions to the left, and he had the best record as far as doing that. As the Dem primary, as the process of replacing Biden went on, it became very clear to me that they were going to ride with Israel, and I was out at that point.
That moment online to be with Trump, to be like, oh, we feel like edgy outsiders and we feel like we're supporting the guy that the system doesn't want us to support. So we're going to ride those vibes. I'm going to be a vibe monger and hop on the Trump train. And so the same thing that led you to effectively help Trump during the election is the same thing that's leading you now to go, I don't know about all this, dog. I'm going to tiptoe out of the room slowly. In other words,
when you are alone with Vio on the couch at night, are you as optimistic? I am as much as I can, Pete, but damn, it's hard. Our opponents are so mind-numbingly weak and pathetic, small and unlikable. How can you not be? How can you not be? I have how many people have tried to come at my neck? The thing about being on our side is we only have to win once. We only have to win once. They're struggling to defend an unsustainable status quo. And we are pushing for radical reforms. Are we going to achieve them all in my lifetime? Almost certainly not. But who gives a fuck? It's about using the time I have to make an impact and feel like what we're doing on this planet can matter. And it only matters insofar as we help one another and we move the ball forward. Oh, yes. Yes. The more we get, listen, I'm not trying to fuck with Caroline. This is not me trying to be annoying. It's just, I'm sure in Caroline's life, she has a lot of people naysaying any kind of ideas of her being political. I know of her as a political person, and I just want to be one of those people that say, I'm not trying to make things uncomfortable or pressure her in any way. I actually believe in her as a person, and I believe she has what it takes to be an amazing leader. And if she doesn't want to do that, if she's focused on other passions and other things, that's totally fine by me. I'm not trying to be annoying. It's very rare. One of the things about women running for office, and this is something because I've recruited women and men to run for office many times in my life, and women are discouraged and women have to be asked. And so I want to be one of those people for Caroline, because I believe that if she did it, she would win. And not only would she win, she would become a national voice. That's how much I believe in her as a politician. Now, maybe no one else in her circle does, and that's okay, or maybe I just don't know her well enough, and maybe I'm wrong. But it just bothers me how women are consistently downplayed in politics. And so I have decided to be in my life the type of guy who asks women to run, who believe they can win. So I think she's that person. If she doesn't want to do it, I'm not saying it's wrong if she doesn't agree or she wants to do something else with her life, because running for office sucks. And she knows that. She knows that. And I know that. Why am I not running? I only want to run if I feel like I actually have people wanting me to run in the district that I'm going to run. That's what I would require. So that's what I would require. It doesn't need to be my fans in my chat. It would need to be local people. What district would she run in and against who? I have some ideas. It's not important. Let's just say I've thought about it more. I've thought about it more than you guys have in a very deep level. So, but it's not important to show you because it doesn't matter until she wants to do it.
Hey, you guys want me to run for office? That is going to be my platform. This is the clip that they're going to play. Me being like, put them all on the island and have them fight to the death. And one of them gets to survive.
That would get 70% of the vote.
The vibes have shifted. The energy has shifted. Everybody feels the same thing. That, oh my God, this is horrific. This is fascism. This is imperialism. This is colonialism. This is the most corrupt regime I've ever seen. They don't give a fuck about regular people. Unemployment's out of control. Inflation's out of control. Over 30% of the entry-level jobs have been replaced by ChatGPT. The economy's turned into shit. We're in a serious amount of trouble. And so now the vibes online are fuck Trump, fuck MAGA, fuck everybody who was on the Trump train. And so now you, because your job is being a comedian, your job is to be an entertainer, your job is to be a public figure, and what you're good at is, which way is the wind blowing? Let me take the temperature of the room. Let me try to readjust and recalibrate because I don't want to be left behind. I don't want to be ignored. I don't want to be in the dustbin of history because I wasn't able to adjust with the vibes. And so you rode the vibes when it was pro-Trump. Now you're trying to ride the vibes that it's anti-Trump. That's how it feels to me. That's how it feels to me. Okay. And people might have different reactions to him. Some might say, okay, whatever, I accept what he's saying now. And some might say, hey, fuck you, man. You need a real fucking accounting for what you did and how you helped fascism rise in this country. There's going to be different reactions, but let's hear the rest of this.
I understand that this is a horrific event that happened. I objectively want to talk about it. I'm not trying to like win anybody over in this.
You understand? You know the difference between right and wrong.
There's a difference between right and wrong, and there's a difference between like respecting and honoring the Constitution, the backbone of our country, and then completely shredding it. And this is completely shredding it. And now they're realizing that people have.
Here's the reality, chat. Here's the reality that people need to understand about platforms and about the left in general. If people want to give you their platform to spread, like this is another problem that I have with the left. The earlier problem we discussed was like people going, what took you so long? That's the most annoying, useless opinion people have and thing they say. The second thing is going like, oh my God, I can't believe that you are like allowing this person to change their mind. He's not running for shit. He's not in charge of anything. If he wants to now spread anti-Trump propaganda and push ideas that I like, go for it, bro. Go to your audience and tell them that I'm right and you were wrong. That's fine by me. And we should collect the win. Now, that doesn't mean you stop criticizing the guy, but learn to collect wins.
Noticed it, and now they're trying to backtrack it. But
by the way, he's been wiping his ass with the Constitution.
Sure,
like,
and
I've been on record a million times saying like when he said we should terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election, shit like that got to be disqualifying if you're running for president.
Charlemagne, let's stick on that for just a second, bro. Trump said that before he went on Andrew Schultz's show. Let me repeat that. Trump said we should terminate the Constitution before he went on Andrew Schultz's show. Did Andrew Schultz ask him about that? Did Andrew Schultz hold him accountable about that? Did Andrew Schultz say to his face, you know, that's pretty much disqualifying and nobody who says something like that should ever be president again? Is that what happened? They didn't do that. He didn't talk about that. So that's why a lot of people are going to struggle to listen to Andrew Schultz now and go, okay, I accept where you're coming from now. Because how can they trust you? How can they? It's not like, and this is the thing that drives us crazy, liberals and leftists. It's not like y'all motherfuckers weren't warned. You were warned times 1,000. You were warned times 1,000. We were over there screaming through a motherfucking bullhorn saying Trump is a fucking sewage pig. Trump is disgusting. Trump is a fascist, imperialist, warmonger, corrupt goon. He's a criminal, 34 times convicted felon, charged with 91 different crimes. The stuff that this dude did just in the first term, because I know second term now, shit is totally off the rails. But in the first term, there was plenty of shit there that I was warning about and other people were warning about. And you had people in the Rogan sphere and the podcast sphere who just didn't care, didn't research it, didn't care, didn't know, didn't think about it, and just rode the vibes. And that's the problem, is that, as Charlemagne said here, Trump said we should terminate the Constitution to get my ass back in office, even though I lost the 2020 election. I want to be put in the office and Biden kicked out. So we should terminate the Constitution to make that happen. And that was not brought up. It was not brought up by Andrew Schultz. It was not brought up by fucking Joe Rogan. It was not brought up by Tim Dillon to JD Vance. It wasn't fucking brought up. And so the liberals and the leftists, as per usual, We were right too early. Sorry, we were the buzzkill. We were the ones who weren't fun. We were the ones who were swimming against the tide, but we were right too soon. And now what I think people want to hear is people like Andrew Schultz go, hey, you know what? The liberals and the leftists were 100% correct, and they deserve their flowers. I apologize. I was wrong. Here's a full accounting of how
the liberals were not correct. Just say the left, man. I know that you're doing it so that you get like Dem people to watch you and boomers and shit, but like, come on, the liberals were not right about anything. Like, they're still arguing to fund ICE right now. Like, come on, man.
I was wrong. And oh yeah, by the way, shout out to the liberals and the leftists who are warning everybody from the top of their lungs that we're fucking ignored every single step of the way.
I know that there are people sounding the alarms about this. When I saw these last few weeks in Minnesota, I didn't think it was possible to happen in the United States of America. I'm being 100% serious.
To white people?
No, to anybody.
But you've seen it happen to black people.
Exactly. Yes, to white people.
It's okay to say that.
No,
it is. But it's okay to say that.
I mean, I didn't know that this was possible to happen in the United States of America. And what I'm specifically talking about with this situation here, and like not only this one, but also what we've seen ICE doing, like entering homes without warrants, like arresting people. It is unconstitutional. And they've done this weird thing where like they have like a federally administrative warrant, which is some bullshit. It doesn't even allow you to actually have access into a home. Yeah, they're trying to find ways around the system. And what that says to me, when you're willing to shred the Constitution to preserve it's not only your power, but your ideas of what should happen, it is incredibly un-American.
But here's the thing. They were holding up signs that said mass deportations, the RNC. And the only way, this is a super important point, I hope everybody understands it, the only way you can actually do mass deportations, the only way is to round up people who are not criminals, who are not felons, who are perhaps undocumented but have been here for a decade and they work a steady job and they raise their family and they're members of the community and they go to church and whatever. That's the only way you can do mass deportations. Trump very famously accused Haitian immigrants of eating cats and dogs. Now, that was a total lie, but there was a part of that story that people overlooked. Those Haitian immigrants are legal immigrants. So you can't now look around and go, damn, they're doing a lot of things. I can't believe they're doing some of these things that they said they were going to fucking do. They said.
Easiest way I've been lately to explain whether or not you're a liberal these days is just ask someone, would you rather have another 48 years of Donald Trump or immediately magically replace the U.S. government with a Chinese style government? And if they have to really think about it for more than a couple seconds, they're liberal. Oh, of course. And also, I even think liberals at this point would say, I'd rather have the Chinese government. I see liberals saying all the time, China, take my data. I don't trust, you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people are kind of coming around. And I think one of the major ways that people started to break away from the China bad mind virus is when they saw a real genocide happening in Gaza. And they saw people denying that genocide that was happening right in front of their eyes. And then those same people said China's committing a genocide against the Uyghurs. And people were like, yeah, that seems pretty insane that you would say that about China, but you would deny Israel's genocide. You know, a principled position where somebody's like, I think there's a cultural genocide happening in China, and I think there's an active genocide, exterminationist genocide happening in Gaza. Those type of people don't really exist much. Like, those are not what liberals stand for. That's not what liberal politicians are saying. Liberal politicians are saying, quite frankly, lies about China and lies about Israel. And that has kind of broken people's brains and their ability to trust the mainstream narratives about those countries.
Mass deportations. That means we're not just going after criminals. We're not just going after criminals. They were targeting legal immigrants with his rhetoric during the election, and then they target legal immigrants now, okay? There were signs, and again, you were warned, and you didn't listen. So what people actually want from somebody like Andrew Schultz is literally a mea culpa. I apologize. Here's exactly how I got it wrong. Let me explain to you what I was thinking, why that's wrong, why my critics were correct. That's what you got to do. But I don't think that's going to happen. Now, to be fair to him, though, because I do want to be fair, he is going above and beyond. Like, fucking Joe Rogan is still lost in the fucking wilderness. Like, at least Andrew Schultz has been going around now saying, oh, shit, like 95% of the people they're rounding up are not violent, criminal, undocumented immigrants. Yeah, exactly what we've been fucking warning about. Rogan's still out there fucking meat riding the Trump regime. Why? Because he texts Trump all the time. He texts JD Vance all the time. He texts Elon Musk all the time. Fucking Trump and Vance were just outed in the fucking Epstein.
Can I Reader's Digest the Uyghur situation in China? The CIA supported a radical Turkish extremist terrorist Al-Qaeda aligned sect for the purpose of trying to undermine China's internal and territorial integrity. That included a large number of very vicious terrorist attacks that killed hundreds of people in China. And the Chinese government had a crackdown on radical right-wing Islamist mosques. And it went too far. It was a little bit excessive. But after the world kind of protested it, the Chinese government dismantled the administrative detention program that was going on for de-radicalization. That's basically that's the situation. There was a lot of very vicious terrorist attacks supported by the CIA within China, and then there was a reaction against it, including like slaughtering a bunch of kids and shit. It's very insane. You don't hear about it. You never heard about those attacks because Americans are not told about that kind of stuff.
Files in the most embarrassing way possible. And now I guarantee you Rogan is still going to ride for them, right? So some of these people are just gone. They're gone mentally.
But the program, as far as I understand, was dismantled. So people considered it to be a trampling of civil liberties of people that were suspected of being allied with the terrorist group. But there wasn't any like genocide of the mass murder of people or anything like that.
There's no hope for them whatsoever. Andrew has done better than a lot of other people that were in this position. In order for us to know you're not going to fuck up like this again, there needs to be a full accounting. There needs to be a full accounting. And I'm still waiting for everybody to come out and tell the truth, which is liberals were right, leftists were right. If anything, the only criticism of us that's legitimate, if anything, is that nobody was as hyperbolic as we needed to be about Trump.
I mean, I've always been hyperbolic about Trump.
I knew it was going to be bad. I was sounding the alarm. I was warning everybody.
It's my most lib opinion. My most lib opinion is I was always hyperbolic about Trump.
But even I couldn't wrap my mind around the
United States killed, I want to say, how many people have been killed in the war on terror? We've killed millions. How many people killed by the war on terror and war on Iraq? An estimated according to AI, 4.5 to 4.7 million died as the result of the war on terror. You know, people talk about Xinjiang, their reaction to losing hundreds of people to terrorist attacks, de-radicalization program that had excesses and probably detained people that on flimsy accusations, versus we killed 4.7 million people. People say what we did was justified and that China is doing a genocide. What's the evidence for the genocide? Total fucking vibes.
Extent of the plunge into fascism and imperialism and colonialism and corruption, like the total destruction of anything and everything that was positive about this government in just a fucking year. So that's our only problem, is that we weren't hyperbolic enough, is what I would say. But there you have it, guys. Put in the comment section. Tell me what you think about this.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big.
I gotta do some collabs with Kyle. We gotta figure out, I've gotta like make a connection with Kyle. Because I like Kyle. I do. I think they were naive with their like, we're gonna work with the right wing populist shit. And I was always against that. That was another case of me being right too early, is I was super against the like crystal ball, we're gonna work with the populist right. I was always super hard against that the entire time. Well, they kind of fell for that. And I think that's part of why, you know, they got mad at me. The evidence about Portland CBP shooting right after Renee Good was all fabricated.
Some other headlines we're tracking for you this hour. An investigation underway in Las Vegas after someone found a possible biological lab inside a home. SWAT and hazmat teams responding to the home on Sunday. Where is this coming from? Police say they found vials of unknown liquids. Right now, it's unclear what led police to the home and
ABC News for randomly playing videos for no fucking reason. Chat, Katie Couric was reading some hate things to Fetterman, and it made my fucking day. Look at this clip.
Writes, when I die, I want John Fetterman to be my pallbearer so he can let me down for the zillionth and final time, because dying is the only way I'll stop being appalled by him and all the knives he plunged into our backs.
John Fetterman absolutely is one of the dumbest pieces of shit to ever live, and I can say that very firmly, and whose brain was rotted. Like, he got severe brain damage and he became a conservative, and that's fucking hilarious. His brain needs to be studied. Well, it's brain damage. What a complete dumb fuck. He was one of those people. He's such a, like, cinema and people like him they believe they're smarter than everybody else. And they believe like, oh, you know, the Israel lobby is that you just got to kiss their ass and you're going to be fine. And it's like, no, you were not able to analyze politics at all, you dumb fuck. And
it only gets worse from...
I analyzed it correctly. I was saying the entire time that the Israel is finished. Like, I've been saying that for years at this point. I called everything correctly. So everything has been going the way that I thought it would. Like, that's the crazy thing. Everything has been going exactly as I thought it would. I mean, like, what did I really get wrong? What big thrust did I make over the last 18 months that is not true? I want you guys to hold me accountable. Tell me. I don't want to have some take that's wrong that I haven't reevaluated. You might have underestimated how bad it was get. The stock market would crash, you used to say every day. Okay, if I said that, then I was overstating my case. I think what I've always believed, if you have a clip of me, that would be useful. What I've always believed is that it's a bubble. It's a fucking bubble. But I would also say a market can remain irrational longer than you remain solvent. I think that if we ever go from a period of time where stocks are no longer evaluated based on speculative growth potential, but rather evaluated based on the fundamentals of the underlying companies, this stock market's going to crash by like 60%. You said you were going to visit China, and I will. Zoran Mamdani. Oh, this is another thing what I was correct. I said the longer that Zoran Mamdani is in office, the more popular he's going to get. As long as he keeps pushing popular policies across the finish line. His new statewide New York favorable is 48% favorable, 32% unfavorable. He's got plus 48 in New York City, plus 1 upstate, plus negative 12 in the suburbs, plus 48 Dems, negative 48 with GOP, plus 2 with white people, plus 12 with Indy, plus 55 with black, plus 36 with Hispanic voters. The only group of people that don't like him are boomers. And they're even. We're so deprived of the left in power in the West, we don't know how good it could get. Of course it can get even better. All right, chat. Let's watch some Voidzilla on the Epstein files.
Here, we're going back into the 3 million documents. So far, we mostly covered how billionaires lied about their relationship with Epstein and or got blackmailed in the drafts, eventually killing their marriage. We talked about Howard Lutnick, how he lied about meeting Epstein, although he still denies this. And we also talked about some horrible accusations against Trump and Bill Clinton, although we were clear that they are unverified. Now, some people have responded to the release, like Elon Musk, saying that no one fought harder for the full release of the Epstein files than I did. Ironically, he claims that he knew that the playbook of the far left propagandists and legacy media is admit nothing, deny everything, and making counter accusations, saying he had never set foot on Epstein's creepy island or attended parties, despite the fact we saw last time that Elon was asking to be invited to the party. What day and night would be the wildest party on your island? Nevertheless, I think it's an interesting point. The playbook, as we get into this much darker side of the 3.5 million files, you're going to notice this trend is true, that everyone we're going to talk about, basically they admit nothing, they deny everything, and then they usually make counter accusations against other people in the files. Almost no one has faced any kind of consequences for this whole thing, leading me to wonder, why is it that it seems like really only in the rest of the world has anyone faced anything? I mean, you've got the former Prince Andrew losing his title. You've got the Slovakia National Security Advisor resigning over the Epstein links. But in America, I'm really hard-pressed to think of anyone who has actually faced any kind of accountability. I think Larry Summers stepped back voluntarily. But other than that, it's hard to think of anyone who's faced any kind of justice. In fact, arguably, Ghislaine Maxwell's life is better than it was previously since these Epstein files have dropped. And what's crazy about this is that we know that the government story is false. Remember, the FBI documents showed they had 10 co-conspirators they were investigating. We also got an old draft of an indictment where they had several co-defendants with Epstein. Now, of course, we know these were never ultimately charged. This was back in 2005, but just imagine all the way back in 2005, where these charges are from, we already had evidence that Epstein was not working alone, and like, of course he's not. But now we're gonna talk a little bit about how the scheme operated. Now, to be clear, we're gonna talk in a second about the laundering of Epstein's reputation, the people who protected him this whole time. But right now, I want to talk about how Epstein got some of these girls in the first place, because the Epstein files provide an interesting look behind the curtains. Obviously, we know Ghislaine Maxwell was helping, whether it be procure the girls, talk them into stuff. But now we have emails of a different side of the scheme. It says, yesterday I spoke to Daniel Syed, who Jean-Luc Brunel describes as a scout or recruiter of girls or women for Jeffrey Epstein. Attached to this incoming email from Brunel is the contact information he has for Syed. And then they blacked out his number and email. But digging into Jeffrey's emails with Daniel shows that he was constantly sending him links to girls. It shows Jeffrey Epstein paying Daniel 3,000 euros, which, to be clear, was the amount that was agreed to by Jean-Luc Brunel. Quote, Dominique, we will pay him 3,000 euros each month for scouting for a 6-month period. On all models we will get him, we will pay him 5% commission on their earnings. Imagine it's like baseball or it's like basketball. You're scouting for, I hate to use the word talent, but that's really what this guy was doing. He was going around the globe trying to find people for Jeffrey Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel. According to one lawsuit, Epstein trafficked a Jane Doe to Jean-Luc Brunel many times. It describes their operation as this. Many of the girls came from poor countries or impoverished backgrounds. He lured them in with a promise of making good money. Quote, Brunel has been a model scout for various modeling agencies for many years, and he was apparently able to get U.S. passports for young girls to work as models, eventually, of course, being sent to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it should be noted that Jean-Luc Brunel himself died in prison by hanging, and that's while he was being accused of horrible crimes related to trafficking and minors. So this guy is not a good guy. He was part of the op along with Daniel Syed, who was also scouting on behalf of Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel. They had their agreement. Here's a sample of how this would work. Jeffrey Epstein asked him to take a full body shot of someone. Daniel Syed says, now she is really skinny, I will do Polaroid. Jeffrey Epstein asks for a copy of her passport and then asks, how many tickets do you want for Woody, meaning Woody Allen? He says 2. Okay, thank you. Full body if possible. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, doesn't look too happy. Comments on her body. And then he says she is very sweet. I'll skip a few of the sordid details here. They comment about her body extensively. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, I sent a request. Does she want to come out to Paris on Sunday? He says, I will invite to come. And this is basically how it worked. Daniel Syed flew around the world looking for women, sending photos to Jeffrey Epstein, who then would get a copy of their passports and bring him to the States. Here's an example of this. Daniel Syed brings him a girl. They didn't redact this name, but I'm going to do it. He says, very nice, easygoing, dream to work in United States or visit the United States working as a model in Dubai. He asks age. Daniel says 22 or 23. I forgot to ask her. She looks younger. I have her number if you want to call her. She was going to send this evening. And this happens over and over. At one point, he talks about a Thai actress. Jeffrey Epstein says he can see her on Wednesday, and then he complains that she wants to meet in a restaurant. I don't do that in New York, and then says she didn't even respond. Not nice. The point is, a lot of these girls were looking to come to the United States for one reason or another, for some kind of dream. They would ask for passports or visas, and then ultimately get sent here by this network of people who would later be accused of trafficking or other abuses. Now, to be clear, there have not been charges against Daniel Syed, and the government, remember, says they have no evidence to go even predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So it's a little bit bizarre to be reading about this.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's very clear that there's a cover-up. It's very clear there's a cover-up, and they're protecting these guys. As long as there's nothing smoking gun right in people's face, they can get away with not prosecuting anything. They're not looking. And it's like, there's beyond reasonable suspicion. There's beyond probable cause. Yeah, undecided voter, exactly.
Scouting operation for Jeffrey Epstein, the way he recruited girls, and then be told, yeah, nothing to see here. Yeah, one of the scouts was like this, like, who himself in jail. But no, there's no one else here, even though there's definitely guys floating around. Even though we literally have redacted defendants in our old draft of an indictment. We have nothing to do. We can't possibly imagine doing anything. And that brings me to one of the frustrating parts of these whole files is the redactions. I mean, I know I've been over this, but it's a different thing. In the past, the files were sort of overly redacted to protect people. The problem this time is not only are a lot of people still being protected, like literally the names of the people they were gonna charge, you couldn't argue those are victims, but the work was just done so sloppy that oftentimes you'll find that the DOJ has uploaded 2 documents that are functionally identical, and they redacted one but not the other, letting you see what's ultimately behind the mask, which is dumb because sometimes the thing they're redacting is Jeffrey Epstein's name. Or other times, it's somebody who clearly is not a victim, because then you see the non-redacted copy and you're like, yeah, that's clearly not a victim. So it's a little strange what they seem to have done here. Let me give you a for instance. So we have this message from somebody whose name is blacked out, and we see participants, and then we see Jeffrey Epstein is involved, right? And it says, we need to work around your 38. We need to push back on the lies, then crush the pedo trafficking narrative, then rebuild your image as a philanthropist. Now, I want to know who's doing that. Who's trying to rebuild Jeffrey Epstein's image, right? Well, we go ahead, we scroll down, and we see that Jeffrey Epstein sends something. He says, in any bar where drinking age is 18, and you see the participant is once again blacked out. But underneath it, in a separate file, we see Steve Bannon, a famous political figure, is in here, and he's saying the same thing. He says, first, we need to push back on the lies, then crush the trafficking narrative, then rebuild your image as a philanthropist.
So what if Trump's closest advisors and the leader of the online right for decades, Steve Bannon, is helping Jeffrey Epstein directly rehab his image? Well, what do you fucking know?
Guys, why did you censor out his name? Or like, why was that censored at all? I don't understand. And I certainly don't understand why Jeffrey Epstein's name in this one is censored. So Jeffrey's not censored in this one, but Bannon is. And then Bannon's not censored in this one, Epstein is. And sometimes this creates the bizarre impression that they are censoring for victim names or for some like kind of victim status or for some reason. And then you see the other file and you're like, wait, why did you do this? It's just very poorly done throughout. That's just something I wanted to comment on, is not only did they once again not fully redact things because they were sloppy, but also victims' names got stuck in this. Like, girls' names appear sometimes, and like, I'm not sure, are they supposed to be redacted? Because they're redacted over here, they're not over here. I can kind of figure out who it is. It's just kind of a mess. I needed to point that out. You know, other times we have things like this, like Brock Pierce, a co-founder of Tether, also known as the biggest stable coin in the world. He sent a message to Jeffrey Epstein with the subject line Anastasia, and then it's just a bunch of redacted stuff with a few untitled JPEGs in here. And so, you know,
yeah, man, I wonder what those file names are, chat. I wonder what those file names are. Can you imagine what the file names are? You know, it's a good thing they're all redacted.
You know, you're thinking to yourself, what is this? Is he sending some illicit media? Like, what is this? Well, then we have this page where it wasn't redacted. I put that little dark square that I didn't know if this should have been redacted or not. It's like a bunch of JPEGs. Now, does that contain victims? Is Brock Pierce sending photos of victims? I don't know, because of the way the government did this. But underneath, it says, the Ukraine is now my favorite country.
I'm going to be dark here for a second, chat. And this is, if you know a lot about politics and geopolitics, Ukraine was known as one of the primary places where children, white children, were sex trafficked.
Smiley face, Brock Pierce, with the subject line Anastasia. I don't know what to make of that. I'm just saying the redactions, like the way they did this, is not good. But now let's return to Steve Bannon and his "we're gonna crush the trafficking" narrative.
Oh,
because
so sick,
this
man.
guy, oh boy, has been revealed in the files to being like Jeffrey's right-hand PR man. I mean, this guy was filming basically a documentary about Jeffrey Epstein in order to rehabilitate his image. And some of it has actually leaked to the public. It's been interesting to watch how that's been received. But the funny thing is that originally Jeffrey Epstein's plan was to just do a YouTube video, like an apology, like a old school 2016 turn on the camera.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the message, dinner with Woody or too many pedos in one place. He wanted to do a toxic gossip train. I'm surprised there hasn't been a Jeffrey Epstein toxic gossip train AI ukulele. That would probably go viral, honestly. Not that I want people to make AI slop. I'm just saying. Toxic gossip plane. Oh, by the way, that ukulele lady is a pedophile. She is 100 quadrillion thousand % a pedophile. And I can't believe she's not in prison. One of the things that I would do if I was in political office would be I would set up a task force and I would go after as many online content creators who sexually like assaulted or exploited their fans. And I would just be arresting people left and right for weird sex shit. And I would be going so fucking viral catching all these guys. It would be fucking awesome. When you're in political office, my brethren. When? I mean, as I said before, my dream job really would be some sort of internal security director. I'm not, you know, as much as I like the other shit, you know, I realize that I'm one of the only people that has the temperament for that kind of work in the left in America today. Mike wants to be a cop. No, not a cop. Political officer. Very different. Very different. If you study like the militaries of socialist countries, they have political officers to ensure that the militaries are not used to oppress the people. The documentary on Woody at Cannes was screened the same day as a documentary on Roman Polanski, director of Woody documentary Brett Ratner, who is in the Epstein files, that has a photo with a traffic girl with his face blacked out. Christ.
Like an apology.
AI bubble about the pop, you think?
Like a old school 2016, turn on the camera for authenticity and saying, you know, he says,
we'll talk
do you
about
think
that
I can
next.
do my own video interview and upload it to YouTube? No sandbagging, interview format, or like a diary piece. Steve Bannon says, if you do an interview, it can't be like Johnny does a YouTube. It has to be amazingly professional and perfectly cut. Then Jeffrey Epstein responds, Woody, we assume Woody Allen, because they were.
Jeffrey Epstein wanted to do a Woody Allen directed apology cut? I want to say that any criticism I had about CoffeeZilla, not, you know, his level of journalism not quite being up to the standard over the probable cause thing, I went too hard. The chat was right. Mike was wrong. He's totally redeemed himself. I was getting triggered by the chat disagreeing. I was a very mild criticism of him. But I allowed you guys to bait me into getting more triggered. So you were right. I was wrong. I shouldn't have gotten so triggered. One of the things that triggers me are when people are actually stupid. Usually I can handle like ignorance is no problem. I love when people are ignorant. It lets me talk more. If somebody's ignorant and they're like, hey, Mike, tell me about this. I fucking love that. That's my dream. Okay. If you don't know shit and you want to know about it, I love that. That's great. When people are just dumb as fuck. And what do I mean by dumb as fuck? What triggers me are when people hold positions strongly and they have no rational support for it and they can't explain it. And then they're intransigent about, you know, being changed, like being pushed off of that position. That sends me into fucking, that makes me go nuclear. Because if I can't figure out why your brain believes what it believes and have it make sense, it makes me go, that turns my empathy, like, that turns my empathy off. I start thinking, like, I start getting aggressive. It's very bad. I'm working on it, Chad. I'm working on let bygones be bygones, you know, but ignorance is fine. Being a dumb fuck, that throws me off.
Close, said he would help edit. Not sure how to stage, what points to make, but better than trying to do an interview that I have no experience doing. Goal is to humanize the monster. Anything written carries little weight, to which Steve Bannon replies, yes. Jeffrey Epstein, should it be an interview format, interviewed by me? They start talking about, like, how do we do this? Humor, apology, how did I get rich? Question mark topics. Their brain story, how do we trick the public into seeing me as more than a monster? Now, funny enough, right before this, Jeffrey Epstein asks about a dinner with Woody, and then he says, or too many pedos in one place. And you gotta love the self-awareness there. Now, I don't know what he meant by that. To be clear, I'm not making that accusation against Woody Allen. We'll talk about him in a second. That's Jeffrey Epstein saying that. I think what's interesting to point out, though, is how all these rich and powerful people are circling the wagons to try to protect Jeffrey Epstein's reputation, right? This is a guy who at this point has been known for years to have pled guilty to these 2008 charges. This was an open secret. And so Steve Bannon goes along though anyways, and he films this documentary. Now what's interesting is he starts talking about the documentary and he starts saying, I'm watching our second hour now. Guys were blown away. I didn't think it was as strong at the time, but I was wrong. Need huge part about threat of AI versus reality, threat of climate change. And this is where the notes start going back and forth of how can we get you to think of other things? So part of the conceit of this big interview of Jeffrey Epstein was to try to humanize him and actually present him as this genius, everyman.
Mike, I believe Paris authorities are raiding the ex offices there. Well, seeing if we go to my title, French police raid Twitter's office is actually the last entry there. Now, we haven't talked about it yet, but if you have like an interesting link or good coverage of it and you want to contribute that, I'm not against that.
Quirky guy with a few flaws, right? They knew they couldn't run away from the crimes. To quote, in Bannon's words, yes, 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 of course, but we must counter rapists who traffics in female children to be raped by world's most powerful, richest men. That can't be redeemed. Can't redeem the unredeemable. You are a lot of things which we will show, but you are not that. Bannon is aware that like they can't fully embrace the Epstein thing. They have to kind of make it about more than that. And if you see the YouTube clip going around, that's what that is. And it's been so interesting to watch the reaction because you see, even for people who've been prepped with the idea that this is basically propaganda, some of them still fall for it. They post things like, you know, oh, bro is casually confirming the world's conspiracies because he's talking about 2008. But guys, that's the whole deception. They're like trying to be like, hey, this guy, this horrible monster, he's going to tell you the secrets of the inside club. So you think more, that's the whole thing. That's how they're getting away with this. It's not some kind of, oh, he happened to want to talk about this. This is all premeditated. This has gone through revisions. They even called Jeffrey Epstein the smartest guy in the room.
Look, you're the smartest guy in the room.
God, the Trump people fucking love Epstein, huh?
You know that.
It's honestly ridiculous anyone believes the false conceit of, you're obviously the smartest man in the room. You could tell us the world's secrets. I mean, this guy, honestly, he talks about some of his engagement.
Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright. But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They say we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. And you say to them, well, you know, we've tried all of that, and the kids still can't pass the test. They say, oh, don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. And that's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil. Got a pencil? Get the fuck in there, it's physics. Then everyone wonders why 17 other countries graduate more scientists than we do. Education. Politicians know that word. They use it on you. Politicians have traditionally hidden behind 3 things: the flag, the Bible, and children. No child left behind. No child left behind.
I love Carlin. That specific rant, it's longer than I wanted it to be. Hold on.
Houses and city halls, they got the judges in their back pockets, and they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them.
I mean, and that's obviously true, right? And I mean, like, look at some of the people that are getting promoted by algorithms. They're dumb as fuck, and they're proudly stupid.
Like
what did fucking Asmongold say? I don't need to read books. I just understand human beings, and then I can tell you what happened without having understood a single fucking thing about reality. He could just intuit it. I'm not saying that, I'm not calling for violence or self-harm in any way, but if I ever said something like that, I would self-annihilate. Like, the idea that you could go out there and be like, oh yeah, I don't need to know anything to have opinions, and say that out loud and think you're cooking. Like, I would just delete my channel right away. Like, what the fuck? That's what I mean by annihilate. I would just stop posting. Why does anything matter? Like, what does this mean?
This car. Is this your car? Yes. Well, you know what? I'm buying it. I need it bad. I'm buying it. You're buying my car. Here's your check. Oh, thanks. Oh my God. Wow. Just let me get my kids out of the back. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have time for this. You see your kids? Yeah. I'm buying this car.
Caught. Rockefeller board, and he tries to say that owning a calculator is why he got that.
It was very advanced in those days to have a Texas Instrument calculator. It could, by putting in the numbers, it would multiply for you to do square roots. And that was the first, and everyone who had a calculator was already advanced on Wall Street. The most important parts of business were really now going to calculations. Places like...
Okay, can I just say that he's a complete moron? Because my pops was an aeronautical engineer by his training, okay? And he could do that shit with a fucking slide rule, okay? The idea, like, calculators, yeah, they have, of course they're important, they have value. But this is the dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. I don't believe he ever actually made any trades on Wall Street, as far as we know, right? God, he's fucking dumb.
Like Rockefeller needed someone to say, look, we're entering a different world where numbers and the numbers of companies, portfolio management was going to be balanced. It was going to be statistical. Jeffrey, could you come on the board, potentially sit on the finance committee?
So we're honestly supposed to believe that Jeffrey Epstein got onto this prestigious Rockefeller board because he had a calculator, but also that he's the smartest guy in the room, the smartest man on Wall Street. And let's not talk about those horrific crimes he committed because, you know, he's not really such a bad guy after all. But it wasn't just Steve Bannon that was trying to humanize or giving advice on how to humanize Epstein. It was also Richard Branson, the famous billionaire. He was caught emailing Jeffrey Epstein saying, "Dear Jeffrey, it was really nice seeing you yesterday. The boys in water sports can't stop speaking about it. Anytime you are in the area, would love to see you as long as you bring your harem."
Guys, there's no reason to investigate him. What do you mean? Why do you want this guy investigated, chat? What do you mean? There's nothing to see there. You don't want to see his hard drives. No, you don't want to see his other emails or his phones. There's nothing to see there. That's a big donor to Joe Biden. Come on.
Well, that's not that ambiguous, guys. I think we can imagine what that means. But anyways, he says, one, I think if Bill Gates was willing to say that you've been a brilliant advisor to him, that you slipped up many years ago by sleeping with a 17-and-a-half-year-old and were punished for it, that you've more than learned your lesson and have done nothing that's against the law since. And yes, as a single man, you have a penchant for women, but there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, something along those lines. He's giving him PR advice. How to get your reputation back. Hey, Jeffrey, privately, I loved you. You can come back anytime with your harem. Jeffrey Epstein responds, nice seeing you. Thanks for your hospitality. I appreciate your public relations thoughts.
How come Jeffrey Epstein wrote like a literal... the only way I would say it is it's like a spam email. It's written like a spam email. We have had grammar and spell checkers for decades now. Why the fuck can he not like type commas and periods correctly? He actually seems like he's illiterate.
Now, according to the New York Times, a Branson representative said the two had a business meeting and stressed the women were adults and had not attended the meeting. All above board. That's what everyone says, by the way. Remember what Elon Musk said, right? That's the playbook. Admit nothing, deny everything. Speaking of, remember Howard Lutnick, who we showed on video saying that he had never seen Epstein since 2005.
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Although also calling him the greatest blackmailer ever.
This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
Well, also according to the Times, Lutnick said he spent zero time with him, even though there are emails basically to the contrary, where Epstein is saying, nice seeing you after the conviction. I mean, these people, not only are they lying, they won't even admit when they've been caught lying. But now let's talk about
hooking up with high schoolers doesn't give you the writing skills of a high schooler. Gee, I mean, like, I never wrote like that. I've never been that dumb. I legitimately cannot understand it.
Prince Andrew, too, who was caught lying over a woman at some kind of a party. I mean, just not a good, this is not doing you any favors, you know. I know Prince Andrew soon will probably be on the comeback tour. It's going to be a bunch of highly paid PR execs. Maybe Steve Bannon can jump in, shoot another 5-hour podcast trying to rehabilitate him. Like, Prince Andrew, what's the secret behind the royal family?
You're the smartest guy in the room.
But again, has he admitted anything? Has he denied everything? Now, we should also probably talk about Noam Chomsky as well, the guy behind the book Manufacturing Consent, which in hindsight, maybe we should have suspected something. But either way, he also sends some reputational advice to his buddy Jeffrey Epstein. He says, I watched the horrible way you've been treated by the press and public. It's painful to say, but I think the best way to proceed is to ignore it. When the vultures dearly want is a public response, which then provides a public opening. In general, I think it's best not to react unless directly questioned, particularly in the current mood. That's the best advice I can think of. Noam. Now he sends that to Matthew.
I have enjoyed some of Parenti's thoughts, and some of his arguments are very well put together. Although the co-author wrote, I think he kind of ghost wrote Manufacturing Consent, or was a co-author. Parenti has always been the GOAT, and I always disliked Chomsky because I was like, anytime someone's an anarchist, that typically means they're some sort of pervert. And I'm not saying every anarchist is a pervert, but there's so many people online that have steadfastly called themselves anarchists have ended up to be sus. And people would always counter and go like, what about Noam Chomsky? You like Noam Chomsky? And I was like, yes, I do. You're right. So not all anarchists are bad, right? Noam has contributed a lot. And then it's like, the motherfucker's best friend is Jeffrey Epstein. Like, come on, anarchists do not need their name dragged through the mud. David Graeber is amazing, and I still love him. And he died, so thankfully nothing can ever ruin his reputation, I hope. He's a libertarian socialist is what he would call himself. That's also what Vosh would call himself, actually. Vosh said that he was a libertarian socialist of the Chomskyan school. And you know what? It turns out that he was speaking more honestly than I thought. I never liked Noam. Oh yeah, I hate Noam Chomsky now. Like, you know, I used to ignore some of his anti-Soviet shit was very cringe, but the Soviet Union fell and it's like it's not relevant anymore, and it's like whatever. What the fuck ever, right? But like now, in the full context, it seems very clear that he was like some sort of controlled opposition. I am not trying to say that obviously don't commit crimes, don't do violence. You know, obviously that would violate the law. We're not allowed to argue in favor of violating the law on Twitch. You all know that. People smiles in the chat if you agree with me. But if I was in the room with Steve Bannon, I feel like I would, I don't feel like it would be peaceful. I'm not trying to say that I'm like some tough guy who wants to beat people up or anything. But if I actually got into the same room with Steve Bannon, like I don't know, man. Like I feel like I wouldn't be. It would escalate. You know what I mean? It would just continue to escalate. It's like being in the room alone with Hitler, right? Like I don't feel like you could just talk to them and chat with them. Maybe I'm just, maybe I'm going crazy here. But yes, Vio. Oh, we've got eggs and toast, chat. Eggs and toast. Wow. Thank you, Vio. Appreciate it. Yum. Mike, this seems like bad news. U.S. Navy shoots an Iranian drone that was approaching the USS Abraham Lincoln. No, it's jelly, chat. It's a big scoop of jelly. God, they're gonna Gulf of Tonkin this shit, aren't they? They're gonna Gulf of Tonkin this shit, aren't they?
Hiltzik of Hiltzik Strategies, who is a also famous PR guy, I guess, trying to help Epstein, I assume, who responds, I think that is wise. Now, later talking with Bannon, Epstein loops in Hiltzik again. He says, Matt Hiltzik thought your idea was epic. Hypocrisy of the liberal left. And he says, yep, he would confidentially like to sit and help if you like. This is Matthew Hiltzik. You know, a lot of powerful people basically were bending over backwards, left, right, center, trying to rehabilitate this guy's image. And the question is, why? Why were all these guys so interested in their precious Jeffrey Epstein if they had no involvement? I mean, that's the part I can't figure out it. Because all of them deny it. All of them don't admit anything. And so what exactly is the problem? But now it's time to talk about Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk. He was also in the files. Jeffrey was copied on an email talking about Kimball's 40th birthday, where the password to the secret party was riot. And then in all caps, Boris, the sender of this email, says, I am not joking about the password. This was in 2012 in September. And now that's important because a little bit later, Kimball Musk is emailing Boris Nikolic and Jeffrey Epstein, and he's talking to them about being connected with some redacted name and saying, I believe you both played a role, whatever that means. Now, whether this was at the party or, right after their meeting in October, I don't know. But what's interesting is Boris responds and says, Kimball, just FYI, you better be nice to redacted. Jeffrey goes crazy when someone mistreats his girls/friends, so better be very nice to her. Kimball Musk responds, message received, wide and clear. Then he says, seriously, I'm very happy with my time so far with Jennifer. She's great. Now, again, Was that supposed to be a redacted name we just read? Like, I don't know. They've been redacting it in earlier.
Oh, we have no evidence to investigate anybody, guys. We have no evidence to investigate anybody. What do you mean? Eyes received wide and clear? What the fuck are we talking about? Chad, I just realized something. We are dangerously close to a hype train. We're 3 hours into the stream. Might as well shill now. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting it by subscribing. We've been battling with the 10K sub mark. Oh man, chat, have you seen, since, you know, not to interrupt too much, but the H3, I keep up with their failures and their fall off for my own entertainment. Apparently, Ethan Klein did a debate with Benny Johnson.
Also say, right before this show, I did my first ever, after much ado, much invitations, begging, you might even say.
Not quite begging, but they were very persistent on trying to get you.
Piers Morgan, we did it. Straight up political blood sports.
What did you call him? Morse Piergan?
Morse Piergan? I don't know. I can't do it on purpose.
It's Shipe Narf all over again.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long it was. An hour or something? But
it was about an hour, yeah.
It's going to air tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Unedited.
Uncensored.
Uncensored, baby. It was with
we'll see.
Benny Johnson, someone that is just a total detestable loser.
But I was still really happy to see that he was there. I mean, we've talked about Benny Johnson for years at this point.
Yeah,
God, their content is so boring. I'm sorry for inflicting 60 seconds of it on you. Ethan Klein losing a debate to Benny Johnson is going to be funny as fuck. All right, let's keep going.
Emails, then all of a sudden you just get Jennifer. I can't really figure that out. But what I can figure out is that a little while later, a few days later, Jeffrey Epstein gets an email. Now we know Kimball credits the meetup and says Boris and Epstein were responsible in some way for this. But now Jeffrey Epstein's being emailed about Jen's schedule. Is that Jennifer? I mean, it seems like it because Jen's schedule for the rest of the year, and it seems like the assistant has copy and pasted Jen's response because she says, Sue, these would be dates in November, and then starts saying, you know, she can go to New York. She says the 29th to the 7th, she's free. Kimball to New York. Then she says, Kimball, Jen, London. Kimball, Jen, London to Morocco, ? Then she has a break, and then it's Jen, Kimball, St. Bart's, assuming we're not sick of each other by the end of November. Now, I can't figure out why is she running this schedule about when she's hanging out with Kimball, who Jeffrey set her up with. Like, why is she running this by Elon Musk? To be clear, I don't know. You know, there could be, I guess, innocent explanations for this. Maybe, I don't know. But all I see are constant, powerful people either being introed to girls, talking about the harem,
Is the Manufacturing Cassette worth reading? Yeah, it's a good book.
About beautiful ladies, and the FBI, they can't figure it out. They have no evidence to even investigate third parties. Why? I guess because they're rich and powerful. Around the world, we're seeing resignations. We're seeing people lose their status. But here in the United States, we've got like multiple presidents in the...
Is Hassan streaming today, chat? Is Hassan streaming today? Or what's going on? Okay, he is? When is he coming back? He was up till 3 a.m. streaming yesterday. Oh no. LOL Mike wants to stop streaming. No, that's not about that. I was just like, did you guys see his, like, I guess he went on a panel.
Files. We got the world's richest man in the file. Several of the world's richest men
I'd have to
in the
watch
file.
that.
And we just can't drum up any kind of evidence. It's just incredible to me. Now, I also want to talk about another rich and powerful person, and that is Peter Attia. He's a podcast bro. He's a longevity expert. And actually, funny enough, I read his book.
Reality?
And
Yeah,
that's going to
true.
come into play here in a second because, oh boy, did I get some additional context. But let's start here with something that Peter Attia sent Jeffrey Epstein. He says, subject, got a fresh shipment. And then Epstein responds, me too. And there's a completely redacted image. Is that a girl? Is this bad redactions? You know, we don't know, although we'll find out in a second because later Peter responded to this. But Peter says, please tell me you found that picture online. Jeffrey responds, got a fresh shipment. Afraid not. Peter responds, you know the biggest problem with becoming friends with you. The life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. Why, Peter? Why can't you tell a soul? Why don't you tell us now? Now that it's all out in the open, why don't you tell us why you can't tell a soul the secrets or the life that Epstein leads? And then we get another redacted photo and then some more images. And Peter says, please tell me that's not where you actually are. And Jeffrey says, you can see the gym in the middle, just me and 4. And Peter says, I think you might have a more interesting life than the Dos Equis guy.
All right, chat. We have 15 seconds left on the hype trade. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the stream by subscribing. I appreciate all of you for supporting it. Hassan went live. Okay, cool.
Is this off the coast of France? No, it's my island in the Caribbean near St. Thomas. Go to Google Earth and type in Little St. James. Beautiful. Isn't that nice? Behind closed doors, it's beautiful. In public, we'll hear about what a monster this guy is, right? But behind closed doors, when nobody's watching, oh, it's beautiful. There's some other stuff Peter Attia said, which I'm not going to get into. I don't think it's very, appropriate for medical professionals to be saying such things. But, this wasn't all business, right? This wasn't just doctor-patient kind of stuff. There's a lot of guy talk, a lot of banter between the fellas about ladies. And maybe that's why Peter Attia says that hopefully Jeffrey Epstein is in town when I'm back in 2 weeks. I go into Jeffrey Epstein withdrawal when I don't see him. So guys, these two were close. I mean, apparently so close that Peter Attia goes into withdrawal when he doesn't see him. Peter Attia says, are you on island? Jeffrey Epstein says, P Beach, probably Palm Beach. And he says, what do you do when you get there? Jeffrey Epstein, guess. Peter Attia, besides that, I mean, they're not even trying to hide it, guys. This is barely code at this point. What do you do? Guess. Well, besides that, Jeffrey, we know what you do, right? So it's so funny that the FBI is like, we don't know. We can't tell what's out there.
Guys, we can't investigate him. There's no one else. It's just Jeffrey. That's what the mainstream wants you to believe. What they want you to believe. And we know it because Ezra Klein said it. Zionist Ezra Klein said, oh, his professional life and his political life, his personal life were completely separate.
No evidence, right? No evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties and then proceed to dump on us a ton of evidence, at least to investigate, right? I'm not saying these people are guilty. Obviously, all of them deny, don't admit, blame other people, say other people.
Hassan said yesterday he likes Ezra Klein. You're lying to me. You're lying to me just to troll me, and you're trying to get banned because you're spreading pure lies. There is no way that Hassan would say that. There's no fucking way. I mean, that would be like him recommending Editor Mentum as a very good political analyst of elections. That would be crazy. That would be like Jake Uger hiring Jimmy Dore. Okay? You're telling me for the first time.
Are responsible for everything. So that is taken as a given.
He said he can't hate Ezra because his polite live attitude works on him. Do you guys see why I'm the only person who could run like the KGB of America? Do you see why I say I'll do that job? Because everyone else has some sort of mental illness where they like their enemies. And I, for the life of me, cannot understand it. Ezra Klein wants you to die. He would probably help you go to prison if he could. Just because he's a soft-spoken lib doesn't mean he's a good person. It's fucking insane, dude. Like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm surprised Ezra Klein hasn't outright called him an anti-Semite.
I am not accusing anyone here. I'm just saying, seems like we got a few leads here, fellas. Some people to look at. Now, I want to address the fact that Peter Attia...
Oh, is that where we were right?
Has actually responded to this whole debacle. He says the following email is what I sent my team last night. I sent a similar version to my patients as well. You put your trust, your credibility, your hard work, what we built together, and I take that responsibility seriously. You deserve a complete and honest account of what did and did not happen. I apologize. It did not get this out sooner. I wanted to be thorough. He says, I was not involved in any criminal activity. My interactions had nothing to do with his abuse or exploitation of anyone. I was never on his plane, never on his island, never present at any parties. That said, I apologize and regret putting myself in a position where emails, some of them embarrassing, tasteless, and indefensible, are now public. So it's this apology. He addresses some of the things, and he says that some of it's just banter, right? Like I said, it's just guy talk, whatever that means. He claims that his got a fresh shipment was in reference to a photograph of bottles of metformin, and then Jeffrey responded with a photograph of an adult woman. I responded with crude, tasteless banter. He says one line in that exchange about his life being outrageous and me not being able to tell anyone is being interpreted as awareness of wrongdoing. That's not how I meant it at all. What I was referring to poorly and flippantly was the discretion commanded by those socials and professional circles. The idea you don't talk about who you meet. I don't know, Peter. This seems like revisionist history a little bit. I mean, personally, to me, as I'm viewing this, third hand, just from the outsider perspective. Now, Peter says he did ask Jeffrey about his 2008 conviction because all this happened afterwards, right? He characterized it as prostitution-related charges. In 2018, I learned that this was grossly minimized. I was incredibly naive to believe him, and then later explains that in 2018, November, he read the Miami Herald investigative article, told him he needed to accept responsibility for what he did, and said he even asked Epstein to provide therapy to Epstein's victims, which is an interesting approach to have here. Now, the funny thing is, there are some more emails between Peter Attia that we need to read, because remember that he said he read this 2018 article from the Miami Herald. I believe it's this one by Julia K. Brown in November 28th. It's about Jeffrey Epstein assembling a large cult-like network of underage girls. But in December, Peter Attia says, home is very good, work stressful, making some changes. He asks him, what's the fallout from the recent story? Apparently talking about the Miami Herald. Now, maybe I just didn't see the emails, that where he was demanding accountability. I don't know what that's about. But Jeffrey Epstein says, same as usual, just tougher. Peter Attia says, legally, any change. Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, I saw a MAGA guy try to beat up a bunch of high schoolers and they beat his ass. Is that right?
0. So, I don't know. Maybe this whole you got to provide therapy to, these victims happened. I haven't seen it yet. I definitely could see it. But it's just kind of shocking. I just kind of don't buy it. Like the whole, is there any change legally? That more sounds like you're covering yourself. I mean, just to be honest. But maybe I could look past all of that if not for the thing we're about to see, which just in my mind is maybe the worst thing I've seen in the files. Not for its, explicitness, the amount of simping that people did for Jeffrey Epstein. Now they all say, oh, it was a personal mistake, blah, blah, blah. I regret it. I didn't look into it enough. But the level is just, you've never seen anything like it. So remember I said I read a book by Peter Attia. It was called Outlive, and he's supposed to be this doctor who knows a lot about longevity. So he writes it, and I picked it up because at the rate we're getting rid of these crimes, I need to live forever in order to try to stop some of these scams. But as I pick up this book, and one of the things in the book is Peter Attia kind of reflecting internally about how he's kind of been a bit, and I'm paraphrasing here, but a bit of a psycho in his life, and he needed to focus on family stuff. And so he it's almost a confessional of some embarrassing things in his life. And honestly, it comes off as very vulnerable, very self-reflective. He's this doctor telling other people what to do, but he's not a very good patient. That's kind of how it comes off. And one of the stories is awful. I won't go too much into it, but basically his son has this horrible medical emergency. It's described in this book like this. A few months ago, Tuesday, July 11th, 2017, that date is important. At 5:45 to be exact, I received a call from Jill, my wife. She was in an ambulance with our infant son. Now, again, I'm not going to get into the details here because, it's tragic and I'm not trying to bring that into it. What is relevant is that Peter Attia talks about how he stayed in New York and didn't show up because he was, quote, busy with his important work. Even today, just thinking about what happened, I feel nauseous about my behavior. I can't believe I did that to my family. Now, at the time I read that and I was like, well, it's at least as good that you self-reflected on that. It's horrible, but yeah, you were a bit of a psycho. What's crazy? Now we find out some of the important work. It's a little unclear, but some of the important work may have been Jeffrey Epstein, which is just, it's so dark to imagine. Remember, he says July 11th, 2017 is when this all happened. And then he says he did not come home to San Diego until Friday the following week, 10 days later. So July 11th, 2017, 2 days after this happens, he's talking to Jeffrey Epstein. And they seem to be coordinating about something. Sure, what time? Jeffrey Epstein, 9:30. Peter Attia responds, sure, I can come earlier. Also, if you have a hard stop at 10, let me know. You're hanging out with Jeffrey? I don't even know what to say. This is out of pocket. There's no explanation for this. I didn't see this in the response from Peter I mean, maybe he thinks he addresses it because he already admitted that was like scummy. That is just, there's a reason that didn't make it in the book, is what I'm trying to say. I didn't see that in the book when I read it. I didn't see, I was actually, one of the things I needed to do, my important work was seeing or talking to Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, isn't that weird? Like that's the simping that I'm talking about, is these people love this guy. Or that's how it seems to me. Like, what are all these rich and powerful people doing, protecting him, missing emergencies for Jeffrey, fawning over Jeffrey, asking for Jeffrey's harem, saying their biggest problem is the life they lead is so outrageous they can't tell us all? I mean, what is going on here? And is it true they all didn't know, right? Because, I'm reading these documents. Yeah, it's hard to say who exactly knew what.
Assad say he likes Ezra Klein.
Wait, since when do you like him? I just think that despite the fact that he's wrong all the time in spectacular ways and in ways I talk about all the time, in a weird way, he's like, he's just too polite for me to hate him too much. Because like all these other political operatives are so goddamn vicious.
It's hard to hate while you're eating, like I will say this. There's something about when you're eating delicious food that just puts you in a good mood. It's hard to hate while you're eating. Like legitimately. That's my cope. Let me just say this. I am completely the opposite of this. In fact, I find being a polite scumbag to be even more annoying. I find it to be less human and more reptilian. Like I can almost understand somebody who's caught up in some sort of like sadistic mania or feeling of supremacy. Like it's alien to me and it's disgusting, but you can kind of understand. It's like a human emotion. Being a cold, calculating, polite collaborator is fucking inhuman sociopathic shit. And it scares me. I think this is like legitimately, I'm not trying to be mean here, but I think that maybe because, Hassan is neurodivergent, as am I, clearly. He's not able to detect the sociopath of Ezra Klein. And I think that's kind of like, for me, it's like uncanny valley. It's like, how could he be polite about a genocide? How could he be calm about fascism, right? Like, it's like if somebody, their mother died and they were very close and the person doesn't shed a single tear. You'd be like, that's a little odd. You guys got along really well. And they're like, yeah, I don't really feel emotions. That's Ezra Klein's politeness.
Win. But I don't believe, remember, they're all denying it. I don't believe nobody knew.
Like, Ezra Klein is, okay, this is how you think about Ezra Klein.
People being friendly.
God, it's so quiet. Okay, let me find another link. This is too quiet. Fuck me. Hey, why is Google so much worse? Give me a second. I got it.
Being friendly and being a friend, I think, are two different things. I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox, friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chopped in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
That's Ezra Klein in a nutshell. Like that's Ezra Klein. Like the fact that he's polite makes him, to me, more offensive. I admire the wolf more because at least the wolf is what it is. Deception, perfidy, underhandedness, false friendship. That's more of a threat to me than a snarling, howling wolf. At least I can raise my shields. It's like how foxes and coyotes will kill dogs. Do you guys know how coyotes kill dogs? They'll pretend to be friendly to the dog. The dog will go out to play and then get ambushed by 4 or 5 coyotes at once. And like that happens all the time. So that is the Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein is the coyote leading you into a deadly ambush. And again, I think the main problem that we've had as a left-wing movement for a long, long time is that we're too nice. I think the biggest problem with Bernie Sanders is he never went for the kill. He never went after Joe Biden. Joe Biden, my friend Joe Biden, my friend Joe Biden. I'm so tired of hearing about the damn emails. That was loser fucking shit. And I swear to fucking God, if you can't punch Ezra Klein in the face, you're going to fight fascism? You know, metaphorically, rhetorically, not physically. Hassan yells at Tim Walz for the same problem he has himself. He believes people and lowers his guard to play people. Imagine liking Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein is legitimately stupid. That's the other thing about liking Ezra Klein. He's legitimately a stupid piece of shit and dishonest. I've listened to a lot of Ezra Klein. A lot of Ezra Klein. He's a fucking dishonest, sycophantic courtier for the rich. He is constantly orienting himself toward what donors want to hear. He's a total fucking hack. I actually think liking Ezra Klein is a major flaw. Like, that's actually triggering the fuck out of me. It's actually pissing me off. He's dog shit.
Right? Clearly, some people knew what was going on, and there's all this kind of coded language in the files where they talk about this stuff almost in like a nudge kind of way. I mean, here's some Woody Allen stuff. He was in the files. He says his business office, if you can make out the check to me, it looks very bad because then it looks like a gift to me. He says that to Epstein. He says, I don't want to be one of your women, or should I say, girls. And what's that? Oh, how do we... Come on, guys. Woody says, I would be much more expensive than your girls. You wouldn't be able to afford me. Jeffrey responds, yes, the price to pay would be too high. Woody says, this will be a beautiful friendship. And then Jeffrey says, as long as I follow orders, smiley face. Woody Allen sends a message saying Woody says the exact same thing, but in a dirtier way. Jeffrey responds, what did he say? Woody Allen, are you kidding? I can't put it in writing. I mean, no evidence, guys, no evidence. Come on, I think I see a little bit.
He says that he can't hate, not that he likes him. Yeah, he did say that he liked Ezra Klein. He said he can't hate him because he's polite. And I went on a big rant about liberals being polite. That's always their strategy. It's always been their strategy. It's been like, if you're a leftist, is your hate pure? And hating every liberal is part of it. I mean, it just is.
A little bit of evidence. I'm squinting, but I think I can see a little bit of evidence. I mean, guys, like Jeffrey Epstein right here, where he's talking to a guy, he says, Paris with Woody, and the person responds, for le pedophile convention. And Jeffrey says, I think pedophile is the plural. I mean, no evidence. I mean, is that no evidence? That's nothing. We don't even want to question these people. There's no investigations going on. So, yeah, it's honestly really sad to see how, look, I'm not saying people around the world are having crazy consequences, but a few people are resigning, thank goodness. You know, a few people are at least facing a little bit of scrutiny, but here Elon Musk lays out the playbook, apparently for our guys. You know, we admit nothing, we deny everything, and we blame others. We just push the spotlight onto other people. And unfortunately, that's what you've seen the whole time from all the people in the files. You know, all of them say, oh, I was so happy these files came out. It's about shining accountability and justice for the victims, but I had nothing to do with it. Okay, so then where's the justice for the victims? So nobody, you know, all of you say somebody else had something to do with it, but everybody says nobody had anything to do with it. The FBI says they don't have any other, you know, investigations, any other kind of leads, despite the fact we have one of the procurers of the women walking free, apparently, like no charges against him. Have we investigated him? I mean, it's just shocking how much the Epstein files show the powerful, how they protect their own, how so many of them knew what was going on, to the extent they found out later, a lot of them tried to protect Epstein, like literally make PR campaigns for his reputation. And this is a dark look, the state of the world. Honestly, because Epstein happened a while ago, but the reason everyone cares is because there's other Epsteins around, right? There's other people evading accountability all the time. There's other people, this band of billionaires and power brokers and PR people, even lawmakers, they circle the wagons and protect their own to the point you can never get accountability for anything. So anyway, that's it. It's a hard look at the Epstein files, but it's one we needed to do. But I want to make the disclaimer once again that, look, I've tried to read people's individual denials where I could, but you should just assume everyone that we are talking about firmly denies any kind of criminal wrongdoing. They deny anything untowards about any kind of minors. And given the fact that our government doesn't seem to want to investigate anyone, I would just assume everybody here is completely clear. And so I want to get all those caveats in here because we are talking about some very powerful people with enormous means. And I don't want to be seen as I'm saying stuff. I'm reading the files. I'm giving my personal opinion. But ultimately, this is an indictment of our FBI and the people in power. And that's what I think the Epstein files have really shown us. This has been a long road. Can you believe it all started over here? And we have come all this way with all these files coming out. And it seems like the question is on the table. Are there going to be consequences?
Is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in, relations with minors will be prosecuted? Any chance?
I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. And so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things. And if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them,
So in other words, they're not going to actually get a warrant and search these guys' fucking devices, right? They're not going to investigate. Right? They're just going to let all this smoking gun. I mean, it's all smoking gun as far as I'm concerned until you investigate every single thing you can to the maximum possible degree. And then you find nothing. Well, they've had enough time to cover shit up. So congratulations on that failure. But they're not even trying.
better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Didn't look like that's all that was going on some of those photos. I mean, if the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
That's right. And unfortunately, photos can't speak.
It's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. Jesus Christ.
French prosecutors are searching X's offices in a probe into possible child abuse images and deepfakes. The preliminary investigation is looking into a range of alleged offenses by the social media platform, including spreading child sex abuse images. In a message posted on X, Paris prosecutor's office announced the ongoing searches at X's French offices, saying the goal is to ensure X complies with French law. The prosecutor's office also says it's leaving the platform and calling on its followers to join it on other social media. Let's bring in foreign correspondent Tom Soufi-Burridge for more on that. So, Tom, what's the latest on this investigation and where does it go from here?
Yeah, so the cybercrime unit of the Paris prosecutor's office, Diane, this morning conducted a search of the offices of X in Paris as part of an ongoing investigation into the social media platform owned by Elon Musk. And in conjunction with that, it also announced that it was summoning Elon Musk and the chief executive of X, Linda Yaccarino, to voluntary hearings as part of this investigation in April. The Paris prosecutor's office saying that this investigation is being done in a constructive manner to ensure that X complies with French law.
Tom, the Trump administration has criticized Europe for taking actions to regulate social media platforms. Could Europe's investigation impact how the platform operates here in the U.S.?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, Europe is definitely trying to regulate social media platforms more generally. I mean, just going back to this investigation that the Paris prosecutor's office has announced, or it began a year ago. And back then, Diane, it was looking at whether or not the algorithms on X were biased in favor of certain users. What the Paris prosecutor's office is saying today is that in light of revelations that surfaced, that some users on X were using Grok, which is the new artificially AI search engine on the platform. Some people were using that to sexualize images of people without their consent, including the images of some minors. Now, X did respond to that. It has taken away or blocked the ability of anybody to use Grok in.
And as you can say, chat, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the only person calling for an opening of a parliamentary commission of inquiry into the Epstein affair.
In that way. But the Paris prosecutor's office is saying it is expanding its investigation in light of those revelations, and it is now looking into whether or not X was complicit in the possession and dissemination of indecent images of minors. Now, we haven't had any comment from X in relation to the search at their offices in Paris this morning. And just to underline, X has not been charged or any charges against any individuals in relation to this investigation so far.
All right, Tom Soufi-Burridge, thank you.
The rest of them, this has only been pushed by France Unbound. Of course it is. All the other parties in France are puppets of the United States and therefore puppets of Donald Trump. Only the left is the resistance to fascism. There is no centrist resistance to fascism, not in America, not in Europe. It's either the left or no one. That's the reality. Oh my God, Joe Biden is such a fucking loser. Holy shit. Do you think that Donald Trump is doing a better or worse job as Joe Biden as president? 51% worse, 49% better. Joe Biden is such a loser that he can't even today, it's 50-50. God damn, what a fucking loser. Jesus Christ. Democrats will be like, but that's the electable guy. That's the electable guy. The one that everyone fucking hates. You think if he got his infrastructure bill through, it would be better? I'll be completely honest with you, chat. There's two elements of politics, and they're both important. The first is actually materially improving people's lives. Joe Biden did not do that. The second part is convincing people that you're responsible for their lives improving. Okay? Those are the two elements. And if you want people to like you, you need to do both. If you want a realignment, like if you want the left to win for a decade or more, then you need to do both. If you want to win the next election, you need to do the second. But if you just do the first, which is slightly improve people's lives, but they don't trade that back to you, they don't hold you responsible for their improvement. If they personalize it, if they individualize it, and they give you no credit, well, then you're not going to win anything. And the Democrats, by the way, I don't know if you know this, chat, the Democrats are addicted to hiding credit. When the Democrats do policy, they try to construct it in such a way that nobody realizes that the government is doing it. Like, I'll give you an example. That's a perfect example. If I had been writing Obamacare, I would have called it Obamacare in all 50 states. I would have called it Obamacare or the ACA, whatever, in all 50 states. I would have allowed there to be 50 different names for it. It would have been America's Affordable Care Act policy or whatever the fuck. A lot of people get Obamacare subsidies and don't even realize it. That's how stupid they are. Oh my God. Jesus.
Mr. Speaker,
we've had real problems with that.
The president had called yesterday for a takeover of federal elections, to nationalize in some states. Is that something that you think you should do, that Republicans should do, take over elections?
The president is expressing his frustration about the problems we have in some of these blue states where election integrity is not always guaranteed. So we have to figure out solutions to that problem, and that's what I think the Save America Act will do. So we're working on it.
Thank you, guys.
I remember that book they love so much, Nudge or something. It was all about how not to take credit for things. Yeah. Chuck Schumer posted today, "It was an honor to meet with the leader of the Venezuelan Democratic Movement and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Maria Coronado Machado to discuss our support for a free and democratic Venezuela. Her bravery and resilience are an inspiration for all who stand for freedom." Just so you know, this woman has been nonstop praising Trump. Non-stop praising Trump. Non-stop. Emma Vigeland is saying fascist collaborator resign. Oh, hell yeah. I quote tweeted it just now. It said, "Resign, you fucking quisling fraud." The radicalization of Emma Vigeland must occur. The radicalization of Emma Vigeland must occur. I don't want to hear anymore like, well, I really like Kamala Harris ever fucking again. God damn it. He's such a dumb piece of shit. All right, chat. A chatter made this, so I want to show it to you all.
Revolutionary skills. Well, this is FPV. My name's Wes. I'm an activist, FPV pilot.
You know what I think would be a really fun game? Where it is a 21st century resistance simulator where you start out and like the gameplay is you do FPV drone missions. So the storyline is like you're a underground resistance group in a country called the United Provinces of Comerica, and you just do these FPV drone missions, and then they escalate to like more and more complex drone missions, you know, and the goal of the game is to successfully, you know, advance the revolution through those drone missions.
And tattoo artist in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm here today to tell you about some easy, low barrier ways to get into the FPV hobby. To get started,
Bitcoin get wrecked. Oh, is it still dumping? New 56-week low today. Excuse me. New 52-week low today. Oh, I'm gonna watch that thing, but I have to look at this. Remember how I said if it hits like 69, that's a signal? Didn't I say that like 2 days ago? Oh my lord. 68, but yes. Well, yeah, that's where I'm like, wow, that's a dump. Jesus Christ. All right, let's finish this chat. A chatter made it, so I want to watch it.
You're gonna need two things. One, a remote. This is my ELRS Radio Master Zorro. You can buy this remote for about $150 from most major retailers. This is an ELRS Radio Master Pocket. You can buy this for about $60 from most major retailers. ELRS is important because it is the industry standard currently and is an open source program, so anybody can build it. Second, you're gonna need an FPV simulator. This is FPV Logic. It costs about $20 on Steam. I like Logic because it feels the most like flying a real drone. This is Real Drone Simulator. It's free and you can just download it off of the browser. After you get those two things, there's just some small adjustments that you need to make with your radio, and then it's just stick time until you feel comfortable to take the next steps. I'm gonna be making some more videos about learning how to fly FPV, and I hope you check those out. All power to the people and solidarity forever.
Oh, yes. Yes, these are good recommendations. Thank you so much, chatter. Thank you so much. I would love to get some stick time on a drone. I want to get some stick time in this drone. What are like the heaviest drones, you know, that you can build yourself from parts from, you know, like, you know, not pre-built drone, but like, do anybody like build their own drones? Like, you know, they buy pieces from over here, they buy things from over here, they buy things from over here, you know, that's what I would want to know, you know? Can you like make your own drone? So it's harder to, I mean, you know, more robust. I do, and I 3D print. Oh, Theo has wanted to get a 3D printer for a while. All right, chat, I have my project that I've been working on. So I'm going to call it a little bit early today. You guys, very, very soon, I'm going to publish it. I'm going to publish it. Okay. I'm going to be publishing this new information very shortly. I want you guys to be hyped. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. That's why socialism will win. And I will see all of you over at the mothership, because I'm going to raid the mothership. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. I've milked the fuck out of Hassan this past weekend, so it's only fair, right? It's only fair that I actually push him there. All right, everybody, have a good one. See you soon. Here's all my links. Don't forget the YouTube. Don't forget the YouTube. We've got some videos that are blowing up, so if you could, go check them out. Make sure you click them if you see them on your recommendeds. You see my videos on your recommended, click them, watch them to the end. I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your year. A wonderful rest of your day. I'm tired as fuck. I'll see you all soon. Peace.